Pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We got a few minutes before 6:35. You want to do the meeting minutes to get them out of the way, Chris, or you want to do something else first? Or we wait for 6:35?
That's up to you, how you want to do it.
Well, let's do the meeting minutes and get rid of them since then. That way we can get everybody up to snuff.
Oh, right.
You got a knot in here, Alex. Is it okay if I fix it?
All right, meeting minutes of June 20th, 2019. Members present, Jay Joyce, Jennifer Silva. Others present, Christopher Martin. Members absent, Glenn Sexton. Jay Joyce, Chair, called the meeting to order at 5:39 p.m. Mr. Joyce read a statement regarding the current union and non-union personnel and the percentage increases they were receiving under the respective bargaining units and notification requirements under MGL for contract renewals. Please see attachment A. Per Mr. Joyce's prior statements, he had instructed Mr. Martin to prepare letters to be sent to the following contract employees: Christopher Martin, David DeRocher, John Mitchell Jr., Alan Wishart, Kevin O'Grady, Kathy Leonard. The letters were signed by Mr. Joyce and Ms. Silva and will be mailed certified mail, return receipt requested to the employee's address of record. Mr. Martin presented an auctioneer's permit for Rauscher Brothers Auctioneer and Happy Days Family Fun Spot located at 172 West State Street, Granby, Mass. For June 22, 2019, from dawn to dusk. The board reviewed the request and revised it to a one-day permit between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 o'clock p.m. On a motion by Mr. Joyce and seconded by Ms. Silva, it was unanimously voted to grant the auctioneer permit to Rauscher Brothers Auctioneer and Happy Days Family Fun Spot as revised. On a motion by Ms. Silva and seconded by Mr. Joyce, the meeting was recessed at 6:26 p.m. The meeting was continued at the offices of South Hadley Water District Number 1, located at 438 Granby Road, South Hadley, Mass. Mr. Sexton joined the meeting at the district office. The board met with the water commissioners to discuss the provision of water to the town of Granby by the district for Route 202 water main project. Representatives from the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, MWRA, were also present for the discussion. The discussion entailed if the district could provide water under enabling legislation from the Acts of 2010 to provide water outside of the district boundaries. Discussions revolved around the daily amount that would be required, the estimated number of connections, any studies performed to support daily need, and the ability to meet the projected need. The town will supply the district with what it has and will supply any additional information the district may require to make a determination if it has capacity to provide the water required for the project. On a motion by Ms. Silva and seconded by Mr. Joyce, it was unanimously voted to adjourn the special session meeting at 8 o'clock p.m. 3-0-0. 3 in favor. All right, I will make a motion that we accept the minutes from June 20th, 2019.
Since you weren't here, Glenn, I will second the motion.
Well, I have a question in regards to that. So,
Oh, sure.
Sure.
the beginning of the meeting minutes, you talked about, where is it? Mr. Joyce had instructed Mr. Martin to prepare letters to be sent to the following contract employees. Was that a board decision?
I would have to say no. It was just all the people to give the town its rights for everybody.
It needs to be a board decision.
Okay? So what do you recommend now?
Well, I mean, it's over and done with. The letters have been sent out, haven't they?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, that should have been that's just something that should have came to the entire board for the board to vote on and decide what we wanted to do with it.
If we had waited to the 20th, we wouldn't have made the 30th date.
Well, regardless, it could have came. It should have been brought up that night then it should have been decided on that night whether or not that wanted to be done. The letters were already written when the hearing was, the board meeting was being conducted. So I think that should have been, it should have been a board decision, that's what I'm saying. That's all.
Any other discussion? Comments?
But I will abstain from meeting
Yeah.
it, so.
Okay, I second it. How many ayes?
Aye.
Abstain?
2 affirmatives and 1 abstention, abstention being Mr. Sexton. Just sign it anywhere for Kathy. She doesn't have any particular place. Okay, it's now 6:35. A 1-day alcohol license for Jen Williams. Are you here?
It's Alex.
Oh, okay. You can come on right up here. Sit, and tell him your name, who you are, and then we'll go from there.
My name is Alexis Schneefloak. I am the development director at Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture, a nonprofit based in South Deerfield, Massachusetts. And we are holding a fundraising event at Red Fire Farm in conjunction with Kestrel Land Trust, and we are looking for a 1-day liquor license permit for August 1st.
So it's a liquor license or alcohol license going in your Jen?
No,
No.
Jen is our office admin. I'm the development director.
Okay. So,
I was the one who had,
okay, all right.
Yeah,
No problem.
and-
Pieces together, okay.
okay,
That's
sorry. The Corey
fine.
check that was required is in my name.
So the Corey check's done in her name, but the license is being issued in someone else's name?
The license is listed to our organization. We're a nonprofit.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
That's what I'm getting at.
Community involved in sustaining agriculture is the permittee.
Okay, perfect. That's
Okay.
what I was getting at.
We do have her as the person responsible
Right.
for the sale of the alcohol or provision of the alcohol.
Yeah.
And if anything goes wrong, we reference her.
Yeah, that's
On
fine. I
behalf
didn't
of
know
Susan.
Jen Williams was the person who was going to, that's all.
Yeah, no,
'Cause I saw her
okay.
name. Thank you.
The event is going to be from 6 PM to 7:30 PM. Wasn't quite sure if you want to authorize liquor sales from 6 PM to 7:30 PM. Do you know what time setup is, or is this the actual,
Right, so we're not actually selling. This is
you're
confusing.
pouring?
Exactly,
Okay.
yes. It's inclusive in the price that people are paying for the meal. We're not doing cash bar or anything.
Okay,
And that dinner will be served from approximately 6:30 to 7:30. People are gonna get there at 6.
okay, and you want to be able to start pouring at 6 o'clock when they
Yes.
get there? Okay, right up to 7:30 is the end, or?
7:30 is the
You're going to
end.
start kicking them out at 7?
We're gonna start kicking them out around 7:30 because then we run into dusk and the
Okay.
caterer needs to get out of there.
Okay. So we have a special license for alcohol for CISA. The address we have of the licensee is 7 Carver Street, but we should probably put 1 Sugarloaf Street to be held at 7 Carver Street on August 31st from 6 PM to 7:30.
August 1st.
You have August 31st. Okay, authorized hours, 6 PM to 7:30 PM. Wine and malt beverages only. It's a nonprofit. Is the license for a dining hall maintained by an incorporated educational institution? No. Restrictions are, the only alcohol allowed on the premises will be malt and/or wine. Applicant must provide a $1 million insurance policy acceptable to the town. All alcohol must be confined to the pavilion area. No alcohol is allowed to be possessed or consumed in the parking area, only where the dinner is being served. no serving people under 21 years of age, no serving to intoxicated persons, no serving alcohol before 6 p.m. and after 7:30 p.m. on August 1, 2019. Is what the board wishes to issue? I'm going to have you sign it at the next meeting because we have some changes to make. Okay?
Is there enough time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I'll make sure it's enough time. It seems it's an hour and a half from start to finish.
This should be totally fine.
Okay.
Thank you for.
I'll make a motion that we approve the one-day license as amended with the correct date.
Just a quick question. Does it matter if we approve it now or we approve it when it's time-wise? Should we
Well-
just wait till it's?
I would approve it now. That way she can walk away knowing she has a liquor license.
Okay.
And then we can just sign it. It'll just be to be a signed folder at the meeting on the
Okay.
15th.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Okay, any further discussion? How many in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous for aye, so that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
We got fire services at 6:45. It's not quite 6:45 yet. Do we have any other meeting minutes?
We
to-
do. Do you want to take those?
Yeah, when we do them.
So we have the meeting minutes from June 10th, 2019. Members present, Jay Joyce, Glenn Sexton, and Jennifer Silva. Others present, Christopher Martin. Jay Joyce, Chair, called the meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. Approve and sign 2019 common victualler licenses. On a motion by Ms. Silva and seconded by Mr. Sexton, it was unanimously voted to approve and sign the common victualler's license for Dean Elliott, DBA Dino's Concessions, expiring 12/31/19. On a 3, approved. On a motion by Ms. Silva and seconded by Mr. Sexton, it was unanimously voted to adjourn the special session meeting at 6:39 p.m. 3 in favor. Respectfully submitted, Christopher Martin.
Any other questions on the meeting minutes?
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the June 10th, 2019 minutes.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
How many ayes?
Aye.
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 Unanimous? Thank you.
I'll give you the folder too.
Okey doke. Well, we can just
Okey-doke.
give.
And we can get it all back at once.
Yeah.
And Chris can put the other minutes in.
Here's for Chris.
Thank you. There you go, Chris. I don't know what you did with the other ones. There you are.
Okay, it's 6:45. Fire services. And your name is, sir?
It's Daniel Belanger, it's Fire Service Group, general manager and owner. And we have applied for a permit to have our 8th Family Day picnic at Two Fronts Bank, or Two Fronts Park. It's the second one there. We did the same thing last year. No selling of alcohol, or just a cooler with some beer, just in case someone wants cold beer with their food. Nothing besides that. Just, I think last year we brought 2 or 3 30-packs, and the caterer took a lot of the beer with them.
Okay, the start time is 12 p.m.
Yes.
and end time is 9 or between 9 and 10 p.m.
We do a lunch, and then we do a dinner too. It's mostly all kids' activities.
So how long would you want to be able to have alcohol available? 12 p.m. to 9:30?
We put 9, that's what we tell the employees, but sometimes it thins out. It gets done early. Some people don't get there for the lunch, so they stay till the end.
But someone will be there usually by
Yeah.
12, so you want to be able to offer them a cold beer
Yeah,
at
I mean, there'll be a
12.
cooler sitting there. It's, again, it's nothing,
And you probably would say last call is 9:30?
yeah, maybe even sooner.
Okay.
That's
but
plenty,
You want to at
9:30.
least go to 9:30 then?
That's fine.
Okay.
But understand if they'll give you enough time.
Yeah, because once I leave here tomorrow, I'll send an email to everybody and remind them about behavior and all that. We've gone 8 years without any shenanigans, and I want to keep that track record going. Tell them that, we'll tell them 9.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So basically, we have a special license for Fire Services Group, LLC, 1010 Thorndike Street, Palmer, for a pouring license for July 1st, 2019. This was issued July 1st, 2019, sorry. Effective date of the license is August 17th, 2019 at Dufresne Park. Authorized hours, August 17th from 12 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Wine and malt beverages only. Restrictions, the only alcohol allowed on the premises will be malt and/or wine. Applicant must provide a $1 million insurance policy acceptable to the town. All alcohol must be confined to the pavilion area. No alcohol is allowed to be possessed or consumed in the parking area, nor is it allowed near the playground area. No serving people under 21 years of age. No serving to intoxicated persons. No serving alcohol before 12 p.m. and after 9:30 p.m. on August 17th, 2019. As requested.
Sounds beautiful.
Any question from the board?
No, pretty cut and dry. Sounds like you guys did this before.
I'll make the motion to approve the one-day license as written.
I'll second Jen's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous approval?
Dan?
Dan, are you from Granby?
No, but we do a lot of work. We take care of your public safety building, our company, the library, 2 beautiful buildings that you guys got pretty close together there.
Well, thank you for using our park.
We
someone
enjoyed
out
it
of
last
town
year, and
coming
we
to
hope to
use
do it
it.
again
Nice.
continue it. We used to have it at my house on a lake, and we outgrew it, and we do a fishing derby for the little kids. I got to tell you, the biggest fish, the winning trophy last year was 4 ounces. We gotta get some bigger fish in that. The trophy weighed well more than the fish did, but the employees all loved it. It was a perfect fit. The gazebo, having entertainment in there, and the field for the kids. We set up 1 million games, and it was perfect park. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you again.
All right, thank you. We'll see you next year.
Do we have anything else to fill in, Mr. Martin?
Did you want to accept departmental reports?
Yeah. I think the only department report that was changed was the police department today, correct?
Yes, in the original department report, it was saying that Smith & Wesson was going to be holding an event at the Granby Bow and Gun Club, which was incorrect. It's being held at the Chicopee Sportsman's Club on Bachelor Street, not Granby Bow and Club on Chicopee Street.
In our bylaws, are they allowed to start at 7 a.m., just like normal workday? I'm just asking a question.
Well, it would have to be whatever, if there was any special permit issued. If not, then it would probably be a pre-existing non-conforming, so whatever hours they operated at before the bylaws, they would be allowed to continue to operate at.
I just don't remember seeing any permits starting at 7 a.m.
I don't think they go for a permit for that. It's just an event that they hold.
Okay.
Glenn, have you seen all of them?
No. I don't see a time in the report, but you're saying that.
Yeah, turn the back of the department report. It's one of the things in the log. from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. The firing of automatic rifles.
Yeah, well, I wonder if they're gonna actually start firing rifles at 7 a.m., or it's like the time they all get there
They
and
get there, start
Yeah.
at 7.
start everything, and they don't, they start till 8:30 maybe?
Well, I know like Granby Bow and Gun Club, they can only fire certain hours and wait.
Right. I don't know what time frame is, if they're allowed to, but,
I don't know what the Chicopee site plan or anything says, if it's anything like the Granby Bow and Gun Club on the special permit for it, I have no idea.
no, I don't know. It's been around for many years, so I don't know. I'm all set with these, though, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just didn't know what the change was to the Granby Police Department one, that's all.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Alrighty, I'll make a motion to approve the departmental reports as written.
I'll second Jen's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's fine.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I am deaf, we all know
Aye, aye.
that. Aye, aye. It's unanimous. Okay. You got something else, Mr. Martin? Yep.
I have 2 entertainment licenses. And a common victualer's license. Actually, 2 common victualler
Yep,
licenses.
I have 2 entertainments and
Okay.
2 virtual. Alrighty, so we'll start with the first one. Breezy Acres Greenhouse and Garden, 25 Pleasant Street, Granby, Mass. Hereby granted a license for entertainment to provide entertainment, live music for the Chili Chowder Music Festival to be held on the grounds of Breezy Acres Greenhouse and Garden located at 25 Pleasant Street, Granby, Mass. From 12 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. on a date to be determined. A date to be determined.
Yeah, because
That's usually for their chili fest.
it goes through 31.
Oh, chili chowder, gotcha.
It goes through 31 December, in case they want to.
Sorry.
And I don't think they've got the dates scheduled.
Yeah, I don't think
right
she's
now,
got the
so-
date scheduled. All right. Well, I will make a motion to approve the entertainment license from noon to 5 o'clock on a to-be-determined date for Breezy Acres.
And I'll second Jen's motion.
Any other discussion? How many ayes?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
All right. We also have an entertainment license for the Church of Christ Congregational at 235 State Street, Granby, Mass. Entertainment license to provide entertainment for various events in the church and on the commons located at 235 State Street. Granted, expiring December 31st, 2019. So I'm guessing that's just going to be
Dino Days.
all the events. So I will also make a motion to approve the entertainment license for the Church of Christ.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Any further discussion on that one? Hearing no discussion, how many ayes? Aye. It's unanimously approved.
Alrighty, let's take the common victualer's license for Evelyn Hatch, doing business as Breezy Acres Greenhouse and Garden, 25 Pleasant Street, Granby, Mass. In said town of Granby, in that place only, expiring December 31st, 2019, unless sooner suspended or revoked for violations of laws of the Commonwealth. So basically to sell food. So I will make a motion to approve Evelyn's request for her victualers.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Okay, any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, how many in favor?
Aye.
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 And
It's
last
approved unanimously.
but not least, we have the victualers license for the Church of Christ Congregational, 235 State Street, Granby, Mass. expiring December 31st, 2019, unless sooner suspended or revoked for violations of the laws of the Commonwealth, respecting the licensing of common victualers. So I will make a motion to approve the Church of Christ's.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. How many in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimously approved. You want to start signing them, Jen, and then we'll sign them all the way down.
Must be the fine print.
Yeah, I guess
Fine,
so.
all right. Forgot my reading glasses.
Kathy just wants to see if we can read it.
Her version of an eye.
Okay, appointment at 6:55. Cyberhan,
Siobhan.
oh, okay. You know how to pronounce it.
Siobhan.
Siobhan, okay.
At least somebody knows it. Hello,
Hello.
I'm Siobhan Ransford. We're applying for a one-day alcohol license permit for a wedding reception on August 31st at Dufresne's Park. Well, so we're already married. We got married, actually tomorrow's our one-year anniversary, but we never had a reception, so we're just...
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's an
Just delaying
anniversary
it a bit.
party
Yes.
instead.
Anniversary party at work.
It's not typically a one-year anniversary party, so that's okay.
Okay, so we have a request for a special license for August 31st, between the hours of 4 and 10:30 p.m. You have start time is 5.
Yeah, just for set, I didn't know what time we had to go and set up and all that, but
Okay, so you have 5 to 11, so when would you want to start alcohol? 5 p.m. or?
correct.
And do you want to end it at 11 or at 10:30 or?
10:30 probably, 10 or 10:30.
We'll do 10:30, play it
10:30.
safe. It's for wine and malt beverages only, and the only alcohol allowed on the premises will be malt and/or wine. Applicant must provide $1 million insurance policy acceptable to the town. All alcohol must be confined to the pavilion area. No alcohol is allowed to be possessed or consumed in the parking area, nor is it allowed near the playground area. No serving people under 21 years of age, no serving to intoxicated persons, no serving alcohol before 5 p.m. and after 10:30 p.m. on August 31st, 2019.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
I just have a couple questions.
Go right ahead.
Okay. You said you're going to be setting up around 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we weren't sure, I mean,
Okay.
I know the permit starts at 5, but
Well, my question is there a possibility anybody would be drinking before the 5
No.
o'clock?
no.
Okay. I want to make sure.
That
'cause
makes sense,
I know
yeah.
you're going to be setting up, so if there was a possibility, you may want to look at having the permit start at 4 o'clock versus 5 o'clock.
No, we would just make sure that it gets there for 5.
Okay. Okay.
Second?
I'll second Jen's motion.
Okay, any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, how many in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's passed unanimously. And have a good anniversary.
Thank you.
Happy 1 year.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with Mr. Martin.
Before we continue on,
Yep.
under old business, or under
Yes.
town administrator, we have a one-day liquor license for, huh? They're not here yet? Will you let me know when they do arrive then? Thank you.
Scratch that.
One last thing we have to address.
The next appointment is for 7:05, so I'm just trying to get what done we can between there.
I hear you.
A lot of warrants, because we haven't addressed them for a while.
In about 3 different weeks, or 3 different meetings.
I think we're more like about 8.
Is it that many?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want me to read them for you, or do you want to go ahead and read them?
You can feel free.
No, that's fine.
I'll save my voice.
Okay, that's fine. All right, first one is, that we're going to address is from June 7th, 2019. It's an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $576,529.58. That's warrant number 74. Then we have warrant number 75. That is a payroll warrant dated June 14th, 2019. In the amount of, the gross amount is $472,072.65. That was for fiscal year 19 also. The next one we have is warrant number 76 in the amount of $159,563.05. This is the payroll maintenance warrant, which is where we pay the taxes and various other things that goes along with the payroll warrant. There's 2 copies of each one, so.
And you don't want me to send them down?
No, you didn't. I've already reviewed them upstairs.
No, you'll sign them when they send them down, yes. I would appreciate it if you would sign it.
I'm sure a lot of other people would too.
Kind of nice to get paid.
Yes.
Sorry, are you all waiting on me?
No, that's okay. Take your time.
Take your longest time you need to make the decision. Not everybody can come in early and read them. Make sure she doesn't have it in your
Okay. Next one I have is warrant number 77, dated June 21st, 2019, in the amount of $263,450.87. This is a accounts payable warrant. Then I have warrant number 78, and the gross amount of $609,315.35, dated June 28th. The reason the desk payroll is so high is we have the summer pays for the teachers who decide to take one lump sum instead of the 5 payments over the course of the summer. Then I have warrant number 79, dated June 28th, 2019, in the amount of $217,250.89, which is the maintenance warrant that goes along with payroll number 78. And the final one I have is warrant number 1 for fiscal year 2020. dated July 1, 2019, in the amount of $1,263,077. Those are the one-year thing, which is our retirement assessment, sheriff's assessment, things of that nature. Yeah. Yeah. That's the one Mr. Nally doesn't look forward to every year.
I think it's sort of get rid of it.
Yeah, because by paying it in full for the year, we save 2%.
Yep. Particularly when you're talking figures like them.
Just looking at those numbers.
Yep.
It's just a decimal point.
It's a decimal point that I will never see. Let's just put it that way.
When I was buying Virginia class subs, each one was 2.6 billion apiece.
And that's it for the warrants to be approved and signed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about your subs. I will make the motion to accept the maintenance warrants as written.
74, 75, 76, 77, 78,
79 fiscal year.
79, and number 1.
And number one, yes.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Any further discussion on these warrants? Hearing none. Do you want to do them all at once, or you want to do them individually?
I think we just did them all at once.
I just did them all at once.
Okay.
Make life easier.
That's what I figured too, but I just thought I'd ask. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous? Now we just start signing away.
The new one. That's the new that came through today.
Okay, I'll give it to Glenn as soon as I find.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
mix
one
them up.
goes down the Glen.
Yeah. How much?
Jen doesn't get like a pile all at once.
I'll send these your way with the signatures, and then she can go back that way.
Stretch. Excuse me.
So on the computer might delete something.
No. I see Kathy's got new stickers.
New fiscal year.
I'm just going to start stealing the old ones.
It doesn't say sign here on them. Some people might get lost.
They don't stick.
She uses them over and over again until she can't get them to stick.
Either that or she'll just start finding a bunch of them on her desk. Brand new.
She'll put that in the drawer until the other one stops sticking.
That's right. Look at it.
Cost efficiencies.
The trait of a Grambanian, frugality. Use it till you can't anymore.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thought that was me.
Getting fatter and fatter.
Stick on that one. I don't know.
Yeah,
Fell off.
Yeah. It died its death.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we all clear with the warrants now?
We're clear with the warrants.
You know, I'll do 705.
Yep. We'll do our 7:05. This is the Charter Day Committee.
Hello. How are you? Good, how are you? Crystal Dufresne, 11 Taylor Street, for the Charter Day Committee.
Now, from what I understand, Crystal, the only article that's changed from the last time is Article 8. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm sorry, that is not correct. Under Article 7, it says A, Chair, and it says number 2, so we added a number 2. During the weekend of Granby Charter Days, the chair shall oversee the duties, including but not limited to the other committee members, the volunteers, the vendors, as well as any unforeseen issues that arise during that weekend.
Okay.
So we did add a number 2 to Article 7.
Is there a co-chair or somebody?
We do have a vice chair, so it could fall to the vice chair and then go from there to the treasurer, recording secretary, and then corresponding secretary. So we could add that to number 2 as well.
That way you're not limiting yourself just to you, and then they gotta wait till you,
Chair or their designee.
or the designee.
Okay.
Now, there was some discussion about,
I would recommend it says the chair, vice chair, or designee, just because of the way the structure goes.
chain of
Chair
command.
and then
That's-
vice chair.
Yeah, I think the way the structure goes, that'd be,
Yeah, I was just assuming the chain of command.
right, so not to say that it would, but the chair doesn't skip over the vice chair,
Oh,
Okay.
who's, appointed or elected by your board, so.
And then if you also look at the corresponding secretary, so Article 7E, we just clarified the role of the correspondence secretary. So last year it said the correspondence secretary shall be responsible for all correspondence and mailings. So we changed it to be shall be responsible for all correspondence and mailings, including maintaining online presence on the Facebook page and maintaining the Granby Charter Days website.
So that'll be your site's administrator's position.
Yep. And then we added Article 8, so it's not the same as last year's. So article from last year, it would correspond to 9, 10, 11, those are the same, but we added Article 8 this year as well.
Okay, just a question, there was discussion about how early the vendors showed up and how late they left this year.
Yep.
I realize you're probably not gonna be the chair forever.
Right.
Do we wanna put something in here for future people, or we wanna do it year by year, contract by contract?
We have a vendor application that I had attached to last year that we didn't change this year. So I don't think you have a copy of it with these regulations because it was approved last year for the vendor application. So nonprofits don't pay anything besides parking. It's a $35 fee each day, and they are to set up by 12 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Saturday they're supposed to be up till 11 p.m. So it's in the vendor application agreement that they sign. So I can forward that to you guys again this year. But that's already written in there, and it's in big red letters that they can't break down. Sunday we had a washout, and many of the vendors, their tents were getting ruined. So they came up and asked permission before they dismantled, but I let them dismantle because, I don't want their stuff to get ruined either. If the rain was coming down that hard that it's coming through the tent and all their stuff's getting ruined, then they're not going to come back next year if I say that they can't dismantle.
Oh.
So there was another vendor, Killa Henna Tattoo, who did make me aware that her daughter was pregnant and that they might be dismantling earlier on Saturday night just because she didn't think her daughter could do the full day. But they did let us know in advance. I don't know of any other vendor that dismantled earlier than that.
No, what I maybe would say, the arrival time of all the vendors.
Yep.
It seems like,
The rides.
Right.
Let's take it right down to the
Oh.
amusement.
So as far as when they are to
When
be
they-
off-site, yes,
Well,
so.
actually, when they arrive prior to.
Okay.
Because some of them were arriving like at Tuesday and Wednesday, and everything was set up by Thursday with the lights running,
Okay.
okay? And the issue is that makes the park unavailable for rental to other groups if they're there for a week, 2 weeks, because it took them a few days after the event
Right.
to pull everything out too.
So most vendors, as far as rides go, need from Monday till the fair starts on Friday. So that's 4 days for them to get in because they have to get it inspected on Thursday. So essentially you have 3.5 days before it gets inspected on Thursday. So the rides are approved by the state for Friday to go. So I don't know how to change that because they need that time to set up before it gets.
Put your reservation from Monday.
We did, Monday to Monday, but we were told that we got Monday to Sunday because it was being rented on Monday.
Yeah, 'cause we had the salt picnic on Tuesday, and there was still vendors, or there was rides still there.
So the ride company, just so you guys know, they canceled. Rockwell is the one that we had the contract with. It was a 3-year contract that was prior to my time of being chair. Nothing was written in the contract if they canceled that they had any penalty or that they needed to be out by a certain time. Nothing was written in the contract or the RFP. So our hands were tied. They canceled Sunday night, and Finelli's picked it up Sunday night. When I went and met him on Monday to open up the gate for him to get his rides in there, he didn't even have a copy of the contract from Rockwell. He was ready to go in there, charge $30 a wristband and all this other stuff that was not in the contract. I said, if you're picking up the contract for Rockwell, you have to honor the contract. I gave him a copy of it, and he did honor it for that weekend, even though he was never given the contract from Rockwell. So there was unforeseen circumstances with Rockwell canceling that Sunday night when the fair started on Friday. We're lucky we had rides this year. That's how bad it was. They didn't have help coming in to help them run the rides, so they subcontracted out to Finelli's without even letting the Charter Day Committee know, and they did not return 5 phone calls that I gave to them. So I just dealt with what I got. He picked up from Dalton, Mass. And brought it to Granby, otherwise we had no rides. So I know some town members said that they were disappointed that there wasn't a lot of rides for younger kids. We were lucky we had any rides at that point because, again, there was nothing written in the contract, nothing written in the RFP stating that there was a penalty for them canceling in such short notice without us having enough time to pick up another ride company. So that is something that we will change this year, and we are going to also change in the contract that they have to be out by Monday morning. So when I talked to Joe Finelli, which was my contact, he said that he would be out by Monday. When I called him on Tuesday because the rides were still on the softball field, he said, well, I told you I would be out. And I said, and that means all your equipment with you. Why do I care when you're going to leave if you're not going to take your equipment with you? So he said that he had 15 tires go out on him in transport of his rides. And I said, well, call a local garage. You can call Mark's Garage. You can call Hampshire Towing. Call one and get your rides out of there. So I think it was Thursday by the time he finally got his ride out of there. But I did have Mark's Garage tow it off of the field on Tuesday, and they did it in courtesy of the Charter Day Committee just so that they could play the softball game. But
So you're going to address all the problems you had this year and
Yes.
next year's contract?
Yes.
So we don't need to put them in here in the regulations?
right, it should be in the RFP with the amusement ride company, and
Okay.
as well as in the contract, the final contract that gets signed.
Well, it sounds like you did a nice job putting everything together in such a short notice when
Thank you. We
They-
tried. It was rough there for a little bit.
they canceled. And then I'm just kind of assuming though too is that a lot of the problems are from a different vendor coming in that you
Yep.
weren't expecting, and
And he
trying to
didn't
work
know
things
how
out.
it worked or what. They didn't tell him anything. He just came to do the fair.
I was there for 2 days, for Friday and Saturday, and the committee really worked hard. And you should have seen Crystal's hands of all the blisters
Yeah,
from putting up the fences.
the snow fencing was not fun.
Does anybody have any comments on the changes that Crystal defined?
no, except for the recommendations that we made for the changes.
So, Glenn, I'm sorry, the changes that you had recommended was chair, then vice chair, then a designee?
Right, Article 7, They, section 2, says chair, vice chair, or designee.
I wanted to make sure that I had
Yeah.
the correct hierarchy. Okay.
Any more questions?
No. All right, I will make a motion to accept the Granby Charter Days regulations for 2020 with the amendment for Article 7, number 2, adding chair, vice chair, or designee.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Okay, no further discussion, I take it, since we've had enough. So how many in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous on the ayes, so the regulations are changed.
Get it to us so we can get it signed on the 15th.
Yeah, we can't sign it today.
Thank you again, Chris, and the committee, because I know a lot of work goes into that, and especially this year. Sounds like you got a lot of unforeseen, I don't say problems, but it sounds like problems.
Yeah, there actually were. The other thing we were here for is the committee members for 2020. So I know Kathy sent a list, right, to everyone for the names and the addresses. So we have a couple of return committee members, and then we have 2 new ones. One's returning after taking a year off, and then one's a brand new Charter Day committee member.
Josh Clark.
Yep.
Page 2.
He was unable to make it to the meeting tonight because he was helping his father on the farm, but he has been in Granby. I grew up with him. I went to high school with him. He was a grade lower than me. He's a hard worker. They bought a lot in Granby. That's the address that's on the sheet for him. So I think currently he's living in Holyoke, but they are looking to build in Granby. He's very invested in Granby. He came to the Charter Day Committee to our booth or our trailer and asked if we needed any volunteers, and we always do. He showed up on Sunday at 5 p.m. to help us break everything down from the fair as well, just to show his commitment. He did have to have other things to do during the day that I already had planned because it was Father's Day, but he came at the end to help us with anything we needed help with.
We'll address the appointed people when we do them all at once, but if you have any questions for Chris, do now on that one committee. Otherwise, we'll just go through them all later, because we have a whole list to do.
Okay.
We have a whole year's worth
Okay.
of everybody. Okay, so I believe that's it. You already have your motion, you got passed for your regulations, you talked about your people, and you explained how you're gonna change the contract for next year to make sure that things
Yeah.
get good. And like I said, you guys did work very hard. I know, I was there for 2 days.
Yeah.
So,
I just actually had a question as I was sitting here, if you guys have a moment to answer it. But I thought any alcohol license that was on Dufresne Park property required a police detail. That's what we were told by the chief of police for the Charter Day Committee.
That
the
decision.
police chief reviews them before they even come here.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't address them without the police chief signing off on it.
Right. Just curious.
That's fine. You can say anything you want. Unless the police chief has signed the alcohol, it wouldn't even make it to the table.
We've been doing research on other towns, just something to think about. Belchertown Fair, they get $30,000 for the rides for the weekend, which is something that we're looking into increasing, because the Granby Charter Days get $6,000, which is what is the difference? So I am going to be sitting in on the, and a committee member, I should say, is going to be sitting in on the Belchertown Fair Committee. It's open to the public to try and figure out what they're doing that we can improve here in Granby, especially with a huge substantial difference as far as ride prices go. But they only have 3 cops each day for the weekend for Belchertown Fair, and their commons are packed. And they all go over to the local bar, they come back over. the hay bale toss and stuff like that. They all see the people drinking on the, we talked to the chief of police in Belchertown, and we were just curious how they run it versus Granby and so forth. So, I don't know.
Every town, every city, they run it the way they want to run it. I'm sure if you file other places, they run them. Some may run them kind of like Granby does, some may run totally different. I know what you're saying, but
Yeah,
it's just, it
it's
depends.
a huge amount of money that we put out for just the police detail for the weekend, and it's really hindering our ability to do anything for the fair. And I get that there's a lot of people there, but I'm not saying that we necessarily have to do it like other towns, but there's a lot to be said if other towns that are just as small as us are not having the 9 police officers on site like we are. So I just think it's something to look into. I've talked to a lot of the police chiefs in the area, but I can only do so much, but.
I think it's open for discussion.
Yeah.
Anything.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay, it's not 7:30 yet. Kathy, you said that Mr. Senecal is not coming for the 7:30 appointment. The only one that's coming is Mr. DeRocher, and he's here. You want to start a couple minutes early?
Only thing is there was a couple people who were here bittersweet, and they told me to start at 7:30.
Okay, then we'll wait, because it's only 2 more minutes, but, oh, okay. Well, we'll just start at 7:30. Mr. Martin, next on your list, what would you like to,
No?
Oh.
Short one would be assigning liaisons to department heads.
as far as that one, if we want to do that one, my first time last year, I was told that the chair has to be with the town administrator. Yep. And as far as that goes, last year I had the fire department and the building department, which both had issues. I don't like handing off problems to somebody else. So since the largest problem we have right now is litigation with the building department over the Granby Bow and Gun Club, I would recommend that I stay with that since I'm familiar with the background. Okay? And that would leave the other 4 departments up to you two, however you chose to do it.
So you want to keep the building?
Okay, because I'm already acquainted with the Granby, instead of somebody starting from scratch, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to hand off problems.
I have no problem being liaison for the fire department.
That's between you two, you can choose up your sides. Draw straws, whatever you want to do.
Who are you currently liaison for?
Currently for the police department and the Mr. Dave Rocher.
So, police and highway?
Highway.
What do you want to do, fire and COA, get something different?
I can do that, yeah.
Okay.
Fire and COA.
Do fire and COA, so I will take police and highway?
Yeah. That's what he had last year, so we'll give him something new this year.
It was a good year, Dave. You had a good run.
Okay, Dave, I got 7:30 just popped up.
I don't know where you want to start, but I'm assuming you've already seen the letters that went back and forth between Mr. Senecal and our department.
I don't know what you, Mr. Martin, Mr. Senecal, if you agreed upon anything on what's going to be done, or you still in the discussion stages?
The last discussion Chris and I had was he wanted me to take a look at some of the old data and find out exactly as much as I could about the area in there. There was several relocations Bittersweet was discontinued. I did some research on that. Try to show it to you in a picture here format. Basically, there was a relocation on West Street in 1894. And I think that's what shows in yellow. Originally, West Street dead-ended into Bittersweet, made a 90-degree intersection, went straight up to Bittersweet. It was relocated in 1894, and then in 1927, there was a discontinuance of Bittersweet. Bittersweet used to run all the way through the Orchards Golf Club and tie into 116. So what I assume happened is that, looking at that sheet, this was relocated from this portion. So basically, the town took a taking in here.
So the town owns this land in
The
here?
town owns that, and then they discontinued Bittersweet. Exactly where it was discontinued, you'd have to go back into the research way back in 27 to figure out
Can you see it okay?
everything that was discontinued. In addition to that, I did some research in the 70s. Mass DOT did a plan for us, and they were planning another relocation even further to try to straighten the curve out on the top up there. That was never built. I can show you on some of the aerials. The existing road that's out there follows this green, which was the existing road at that time in the 70s. This was never built. It was, back in the 70s, there was a big push to get all roads coming in at 90 degrees instead of coming in at odd skewed angles. And they wanted to make Cold Hill come in at a 90 degree to West Street and make Bittersweet come in at a 90 degree. I don't know what happened. It was never built in the 70s. Probably couldn't get the
Funding?
come to terms, didn't have the money to buy the easements from the landowners. It was never built. So essentially what you see is that. Part of the problems, Mr. Senecal and his attorney contacted me months ago, and they were asking about the status on Bittersweet. And I informed them at that time, Bittersweet was a private way. As far as I was concerned, it was discontinued. We only did routine maintenance to keep accessible to
Emergency vehicles.
emergency vehicles, just like we do on forged bonds.
Yep. And
The discussion at that time was, they wanted improvements, they wanted to fill some of the potholes, and I said, I can't do that. You have to pay for the maintenance on Bittersweet. And he says, well, we can do whatever we want. And I says, as far as Bittersweet goes, yes, you can do whatever you want. If you want to pave it, whatever, it's a private way. However, what he did is he went and built the, I could probably show you better on an aerial photograph. He built
The island that he
the
showed.
island is pretty much right here. It's hidden by the shade here. This is his house. And this is where the stone sits right now, the stone island, and there was a mailbox right there. The problem is, this is West Street rights of way now. This is not Bittersweet. This is the right of way on West Street, and that stone wall is only a few feet from the actual travel lane. That brings up the same problem we had on Morgan Street with District 1 putting hydrants 3 feet off of a rural road. I've got documentation from Mass DOT, letters from Morgan Street. I didn't run off half-cocked and just cite a standard that I couldn't back up when we wrote the letter on Morgan Street. But me being an engineer, if I see something that creates a hazard to the public, I have to let everybody know.
And you're saying
If I
this
do not do that, they can sue me personally.
But you're saying this island creates a hazard,
It's in the recovery zone, just like the hydrant is on Morgan Street.
but it creates a
It
hazard.
can create a hazard. I'm not saying it will, I'm not saying somebody will crash there tomorrow, but it could potentially be a hazard in the future.
And the town won't have the liability.
And the
Are you saying because it's a raised structure as opposed to the original island that was not raised?
The clear zone, basically, what the intent is, depending on the speed of the road, there's a wider clear zone. That's why you never see any, you try not to see any obstructions on the side of an interstate highway. If somebody goes off the road, they have a chance to recover back
correct it.
before they actually hit a solid object. Even the bridges, most of the abutments are back quite a bit, or they're shielded with guardrail to try to channel a car from hitting a solid object. And that's the idea, the intent of the clear zone. As the speeds increase, the clear zone gets bigger and bigger. It goes 10, 12, 15, 20 feet. So that whether if you go off the road, you can sort of try to recover before you hit it, you know, an immovable object. And
Okay, how do we correlate this island to the stone walls that we have, say, on Taylor Street that literally sit on the edge of the road? There's no room for correction.
there's none on Taylor Street that are right.
There are.
Um,
I cannot pull my Jeep off without hitting.
There are a few sections on Taylor Street that are really, really narrow. In the 11.
We have stone walls
near-
on both sides.
That's the boundary. It's not town property. I mean, that we're sort of, our hands are tied. It's like existing condition is different from me building something that I know is causing a
And I understand that. I
problem.
guess my question is leaning towards, how do we explain that this, because it's new, isn't acceptable when we have, due to,
But the stone walls on Taylor Street are on private property. They mark the boundary between private and public land.
This one
This is on.
this one is all on.
Correct.
our right of way.
None of it's on Bittersweet at all.
No.
And
Not on private property.
It's in this area right here.
And they have what's called pre-existing non-conformances before a standard comes out or
And that I
require.
am familiar with.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just trying to find a way to explain to the homeowner.
I stopped up there when it was under construction. When I first noticed it, there was a pile of rocks there. I didn't know what they were doing. I thought they were doing some improvements along the property and they were storing material there. About a week later, I went by there again. They started to build the wall, and I stopped in my town truck in a uniform that said Highway Department on it, and I informed the contractor working on this is you're building this on town property. It doesn't belong. And I said, just stop until I can reach the homeowner. And I proceeded to contact the building inspector because I didn't have all of the contact information at that time on him. I wrote the letter, got with Chris. He wanted me to write it, not initiate it from the building department. So I initiated the letter, told him about the standards, and it was a little time between then. The next time I went by there, the walls were completely finished, filled with dirt, flowers planted, everything was done. So the contractor did not pass that information along to the homeowner at all. And right now, they even put a mailbox back in the center of that island.
I saw the framework for it the other day.
It's finished now. They still kept proceeding with construction even after the letter of notification went out and they received that. Believe me, I hated to do it. I think it looks gorgeous. I wish they had talked to me before building that because there was ways to lessen the impact. I will never sign off as, I can show you a letter from Mass DOT, the same thing. Mass DOT would never sign off on somebody putting something along one of their roads in a right-of-way that could create a hazard because it brings the liability totally on them if they say it's okay. So basically, I've warned everybody that there could be potentially a hazard there. Like I said, I really feel bad because it's a gorgeous looking wall. However, Chris and I we were kicking around some options to try to mitigate complete removal of it. Obviously, if you lowered the face along West Street and sloped the dirt up a little bit, so there's less of a chance of hitting an immovable object. So if you can go up a little bit of a bank, but it is on a curve. That's another bad scenario. It's right on the curve, and the tree, I think some of the neighbors can attest that the tree coming up the other way from a car coming from South Hadley hit a tree on the other side of the road because they're going too fast. They're not following the speed limits. They lose control on the curve, and they hit a tree. The tree, we had nothing to do. I didn't plant that tree there, but, and didn't give permission to have it planted there, but the wall obviously is something that was constructed on town property, and we're trying to make everybody aware that it shouldn't have been put there.
Two main concerns. Access to all the homeowners from our emergency vehicles to include our largest vehicle. That's why the largest vehicle went down there to see if he could get in. And it's got to be in all 4 seasons, of course. And I don't know how far back you push the snow so they can get in there.
That whole Bittersweet lane is very difficult for us. I cannot even send a big truck down there. There's no way we could back a big truck. It's like snaking through there, even with a small 1-ton, is usually what we send up there. And in a real bad winter and a real bad storm, the 1-ton can't push it back. So we have to send a loader up to clear it, because you're going like this around fences, and it's really not a straight shot. It's not an easy location to plow or to access. So access for the large trucks is going to be difficult under any circumstance up there.
Well, we did talk to you about maybe putting some stone, extending the curve.
Outwards and more into our right of way, to put some stone there that a fire truck could go onto.
I think the bigger issue, though, for me, I think is going to be, I think the fire truck could negotiate close.
If we can move a little more stone, and then instead just going right to grass.
Vegetation.
Yeah, I think the fire truck could get in there, though, and they're not going to drive, you're not going to drive the biggest truck right up to the scene. You're going to, like he's doing with the mini pumper and everything like that. He's going to go in with a smaller truck or bring a line in, because he's not going to want to tie the truck up. You'd never be able to get it out of there. The tanker, for instance, it would be so difficult to drive in there and trying to back it out. He's going to be running over trees and fences and whatever. In an emergency situation, he's not going to do that. He would set up I'm not going to tell a fire chief how to do his job, but I'm pretty sure he would set up a temporary tank or staging area maybe at the intersection out there, and do the tanker shuttle from there, and go in with the smaller pieces that are a little bit more maneuverable, because that road is difficult on a.
We could lay some stone down to assist him in the curve, right?
That's not gonna help though, Chris, with the negotiating around the stone walls that are this high. You're gonna damage the truck.
I come back now to where the fire chief was talking about that. I think it was the pumper truck that he was talking about bringing up there. It's just too difficult to make the turn. And I know the town has approved for a new pumper truck to take that one place. That might be I don't know if the chief might be looking at a cab over for that one, so it has a more turning radius. But Dave, I'm going back to what you're saying is where if that area creates a hazard and the town is aware of it and something does happen there, does the town become liable at that point?
Yes.
So I mean, then that's a concern. Definitely a concern where we got to look at so that area is not a liability for the town.
Agreed.
I don't know. I know what the answer is for that. And I agree. I think I saw the pictures of the area. I think it looks very nice up there. But again, it's a liability issue where here we are being told by our highway superintendent that it creates a hazard. And if something does happen, the town is liable. And I think our job is to make sure we do our best to ensure the town is not liable.
I agree 100% with that. But, you know, the first thing is, how are we going to get the proper vehicles in there?
If you take the structure down, they can get in there.
Oh, I understand that. How can is there a way the emergency vehicles can get in there without taking the structure down? It's either yes or no.
The answer is yes, they can. It's just difficult to do. But I think Dave's concern is the proximity to West Street and turning radius if you lose. Is there what is the margin of corrective error, I guess, the correction generally for that street?
Probably should be 8 to 10 feet off the edge of the road.
So that would be conceivably almost in his front yard.
No. The planter itself
Because the planter doesn't seem that big.
It's pretty big. It starts in here and it goes, well, keep in mind, these lines are right of way.
Right.
The road is probably right in here, and the planter starts maybe even on Bittersweet. So the front side of this planter is probably okay. It's probably on Bittersweet right of way. It's this back wall that follows the curve of the road here that is the most concern to me, because that's, the cars coming up this way. If they, in fact, person I know, right after that was built, said he almost hit the wall.
So your concern is them coming from West Street heading towards Silver, not Silver heading back?
Exactly.
Is there any type of signage that could be put up to warn drivers that there is something there?
There is signage, but people, they don't even follow the speed limit signs. It's not the person that's going 25 mile an hour that's gonna have a problem.
It's the speeding.
It's the guy that's coming through a 35 mile down to a 25 mile an hour going 50, and he loses control on that curve. But that doesn't matter. You're still gonna get sued if he gets hurt, and there's an obstruction in that clear zone that was knowingly put there when it shouldn't have been put there.
Okay.
And if this side of the wall was even lowered a little bit, and you bring Phil to bring it up, then essentially there's not much of a wall there to hit for the car, basically. So if you brought these two walls, sides here, down to nothing or close to grade, then the cars coming around the corner don't have an immovable object to hit.
Okay.
I know it's not gonna be as
And then
pretty
you
as
have
it
the
is now.
potential for the washout of anything that's in there coming right out, which then might cause another
I don't think that's gonna be a
hazard.
problem. Usually they use landscape fabric in the middle of a planter like that, and, you know, it'll be fairly,
I mean, I'd like to find a way to balance a townsmember voluntarily beautifying up this town with safety for town residents and town itself.
If the town was to sell Mr. Senecal that parcel of land, that would be his liability, not the town's, correct?
yeah, but you're selling property that's really close to the edge of that right of way.
Okay, I'm just asking.
For snow removal, and if we push snow off the side of that road and damage his wall, he's gonna sue you on
Okay,
a piece of property that we already own, basically, and
okay, so that's not gonna work. I was just trying to figure
No,
out.
I just want to throw everything out there, that
Well, we
all
want
different
everything.
scenarios.
So, Dave, you think there's steps that could be taken to, with that area? So it won't be exactly the same, but there's steps that could be taken that would lessen, I guess, the dangerousness of that area.
I think it could be mitigated. It's never going to be perfect as long as you have something in that clear zone, but
No, I'm going by what you're saying, Dave. You're a licensed engineer. You're a department head for the highway department, and you're bringing up a true concern, a liability for the town, and I think that's where we need to be, and that's something we need to act on. And listen to what he's saying. I think if he has a plan where he thinks it will lessen, I don't want to say the responsibility of the town, but you know, that area as far as a safety way, I think that's maybe something we should look at. You know, maybe some type of happy medium type of solution here. Obviously, if we took it all down, would be the easiest. And I'm not saying that that's something we should do, but again, I'm putting a lot of what Dave is saying here, because he's the professional. He's the licensed engineer.
Well, that's why I asked, is there a way to get in, and then once we resolve that issue, then we'll look at the liability issue.
Well, I think maybe that's something we should bring the fire chief in and talk to him exactly where he's got to be, where he would, what machine or what piece of apparatus he'd like to bring in and where.
He's been, and he's made the point as far as the large tanker truck that's gone up there. And that's where they tore up the road a little bit, and it was hard for him to make the turn and stuff like that. So, he said what he thought,
He also
were at
made
issue.
the point that they could do it. It would just be tight. It would take a lot of practice.
Well, it would, but I also don't want an emergency to happen, and we damage a $250,000 truck. going up there. Well, $750,000
I was
truck.
gonna say.
Current one might be $250,000, the new one. That's just where I am. That's my thought
I
on it.
agree entirely with you, but I said there's two issues. We need to safeguard the residents by getting the proper emergency vehicles up there in all 4 seasons. How do we do that? And then at the same time, how do we mitigate the liability to the town? Those are the two things we have to do.
Well, I think it comes together with Dave and the fire chief looking at, what Dave's thought is possibly. And that's something the town's got to agree to beforehand.
Right.
What we could do, I think the fire chief could look at it and say, yeah, that's reasonable, or no, I think we should do this. I mean, there's got to be a conversation with Dave and Chief Mitchell. This is my thought on it.
Well, it's a good thought. I mean, we had Chief Mitchell in here, was in the last meeting, and Dave's here at this one. Again, we have to get the emergency vehicles in there for all the residents of Bittersweet, and also safely protect our emergency crews responding. And then at the same time, what do we do with the liability issue?
I think I have a photo that helps show you what.
Well, I've driven up there to look at it.
Okay.
We've all driven up there, we've all seen the photos that were brought.
Yeah.
Well, this is the side that I'm most concerned with, right along West Street, where the wall is
Yeah.
fairly high, and if somebody loses it going around the corner, and
Because they
a
come in
friend of
here
mine has
so
already told me
close.
that he was sort of forced off the road by somebody coming the other way.
That's it, someone coming the
So
other way is
He had
the issue.
no place to go. He was driving over the edge of the grass.
Where in reality, it could be no one speeding or anything like that, so someone coming up the other side and maybe taking a turn too wide or whatever, and, someone overreacts, overturns, and, accidents happen.
So what do we want to do? Have another meeting when the fire chief comes in with Dave, after they talk and come up with a suggested plan?
Yeah, I think we should have all the facts. We could table this to a next meeting where, Dave and the fire chief can get together and they can present that to us. Maybe the thoughts they have.
Have them resolving the two issues. Protecting all the residents, protecting the emergency responders is one, and the second one is who's the liability, and we don't want the town to be liable.
Well, it's the safety of people driving up there, the drivers.
No.
That's the safety part, yeah.
Okay, we'll meet again. Chris, do you want to go out there and meet with three of us?
They said the highway should. Just wanted to see if you wanted to be in on that meeting.
How long do you think it'll take you and the fire chief? Could you get within our next 2-week meeting, or do you get any longer than that, based upon your current workload?
I'm sure we should be able to schedule
For our next,
within the next meeting.
I think so. They can come back to our next meeting. I don't want to
prolong it.
prolong this at all.
No.
Poor homeowners are looking for an answer.
Okay. I'll contact Chief Mitchell tomorrow, see if we can get together out there.
Thanks, Dave.
Keys for $550.
Truck's up at your place, right?
Yep.
It's full of
Thank you.
gas? Is it all filled up?
I don't know, this is where the building department left it, so it's in the same spot that they put it in.
Dave, thanks for the research. I'm sure it wasn't easy finding some of these,
Yeah, some of this stuff goes way back.
especially dating stuff back to the 1800s there.
Marty Merrill did a lot of that for me years ago on a lot of the discontinued roads. He did the research at Hampshire Cog and then Registry of Deeds, pulled all those files for me when he was a counselor years ago, and I've used them quite a bit ever since.
That was before Google Maps.
Yes, it was.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next it'll bring us to firm appointments. We all have our firm appointment list. Go through it by committee by committee. I handed him one. See, I didn't keep both, I handed him one. You want to go through it one by one, or you
We
want
used
to
to do it page by page.
page by page? That's what I'm asking. Yeah. Majority rules, not trying to dictate anything.
Fine, page by page.
Anybody have any problems with page 1? I don't hear anything, so I'm assuming there's no problems with page 1. Then we'll go over to page 2.
Under Capital Improvement Planning Committee,
I see.
Mr. Roussel is replacing Mr. Marion, who passed away.
Yeah, I can see the underline.
Well, I'm just letting you know why we're putting him in there.
Right.
What do you want to, do we want to go to the first page and go over everything? And make a motion to approve it? I'd like to go
You want to approve them page by page?
page by page, but also acknowledge what's on that page.
Okay, well, that's why I asked you want to go through one by one, because like on the first page, under the Board of Appeals, they have no alternate members.
No, well, again, I'm fine with page by page, but just want to make sure we're reading it, so.
Yeah.
And we're approving each area separately.
Would you like to read that?
I will read them. So for the Almoners Whiting Street Fund, Richard Lucier, Diane Barry, and Barbara Hochschild, 2020. Americans with Disabilities Act Committee, Jennifer Crosby and Christopher Martin, 2020. The Auxiliary Reserve Police Officers, we have James White, Co-Assistant Director, Steve Marion Sargent, Co-Assistant Director, Frederick Almeida, Alan Brooks, Ronald Labar II, Jeffrey Lawson, Anthony Liberto, Alan Kippitz, I hope I didn't mangle that, Connor Sormonti, Michael Ulmer, and Jonah Baklavisic. I'm very sorry that I'm going to mutilate that one. All 2020. The Board of Appeals, we have Ronald Harrop and Richard Bollier, 2022. Anthony Huertas, 2020, all 3-year terms. No alternate members. Building Department, we have David Gardner, Commissioner, and Gregory Briggs, Local Building Inspector.
David Gardner, is he the guy from South Heather?
Yes.
Any more discussion on page 1? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Page 1 passes unanimously.
All right, so on page 2, we have Cable TV Advisory Committee, Gary Benson, Emery Everin, and Lawrence Petrus for 2020. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Joseph Arabic, Brian Kennedy, Thomas Roussel, Wayne H. Tack Sr., and Donald Zabrowski, Chair, 2020. Charter Day Committee, we have Jennifer Bernatchez, Crystal Dufresne, Richard Gay Sr., Patrick Gallagher, Bridget Roy, Brian Gamet, Josh Clark, all 2020. And I believe Josh Clark was the one that Crystal was discussing earlier. Our Chief Procurement Officer, we have Christopher F. Martin, 2020. Commissioner of Trust Funds, Albert Bale, Albert E. Bissett, Barbara Hochschild, and Kathy Leonard, 2020. And Conservation Commission, we have Edward Chapdelaine and Wendell Luff, 2022. Those are 3-year terms.
Any discussion on page 2? Go ahead.
I don't.
Charter Day Committee, Brian Gamet. Wasn't there, is he a voting member?
He resigned.
Yes.
He resigned because he was moving, and I asked her about that, and she said he didn't end up moving. She was the one she was discussing that took a year off.
Okay, because I thought I remembered seeing in one of the meetings that he had asked. Okay, that was my, that's it.
Okay, you have a motion for page 2?
I made the motion by reading it.
And I'll second Jen's motion as read.
Okay, no more discussion on page 2. How many people affirm it? Aye.
All right. 3. We have constables, Louis Barry, Mark Johnson, Kathy Leonard, and David Tromke, all 2020. Council on Aging, we have Barbara Hochschild, Cecilia Laporte, Joyce Polverini, all 2022 for 3-year terms, and Carol Morissette, 2021, a 3-year unexpired term, and Julie Duffy, a 2020 associate non-voting member.
Is she replacing somebody, or they just added
Cindy, yes, she retired from the Forest State.
it? Okay.
Dog Officer, Gordon Landry, 2020. Alternate Dog Officer, Tammy Bailey, 2020. Electrical Inspector, Arthur Crochane Jr., Bruce Pelletier, Assistant, and Richard Razaza, Assistant, all 2020. Emergency Management Director, Christopher F. Martin, Director, and John Mitchell Jr., Assistant Director, 2020. The Economic Growth Committee, we have Brian Hochschild, 2020, Gary Glenn, 2020. I should just go right through. Jay Joyce, William Porter III, Wilmot Lewis, and Lillian Camus, alternate member, all 2020s.
And the last one on the page.
Ethics Commission Liaison, Kathy Leonard, 2020.
Now, the changes on the Economic Growth Committee, with us coming up with Mass DOT, we're replacing one member because he's only showed up 50% of the time. Then we're adding Lil Camus as an alternate member, because if we have to maintain Mass DOT's pace, we have to have a quorum. So that's why we made those changes on that committee.
Who are you removing?
Jim Tromke is being removed because he only made 50% of the meetings, replaced by Wilmot Lewis, and then adding Lil Camus, because she's always there anyway. She's our PVPC commissioner, and we've been working so much with PVPC, she's there. So we don't want lack of a quorum. If you go back and look at what we've had, a lot of times we've had a problem with the lack of a quorum. We couldn't even do meeting minutes because we didn't have a quorum to do meeting minutes.
Okay, so if you're removing Jim Tromke, and one of the reasons why he was put on that is because he's on the planning board. And I see Lillian Camus there, but as an alternate member, I recommend that Lillian be a full member, because she's on the planning board.
I don't
Instead
have
of
a,
being, if you're looking at,
And switch Will to an alternate?
yeah, because that was the reason why we looked at putting
okay.
Jim on the board, or on the committee, because he was a planning board member.
We were
wanted
looking for
some.
business people up front.
Well, too, we also wanted
Yeah.
someone from the planning board too.
Okay. So you want to make that change, Kathy? Okay. Any more discussions on page 3?
Was anybody reach out to Jim Tromke before we do this though, as well?
I didn't, because he wasn't at the last meeting.
Well, I don't like
So
just
he's not
removing
aware
people
of
without
being
reaching out to
removed.
them and letting people know as respect to them. So,
Well, how do you want to handle it? Do you want me to call him? What do you want me to do? Because, I mean, this was set for tonight's agenda, and that was it, because we have to do it for the whole year.
how many members are supposed to be on the board?
5,
Only 5?
only 5. That's what it was when we created it.
Again, I just don't like people finding out that we remove someone from a board, especially the individual. Yeah, I
How
think
did you handle it in the past when you changed people on the boards, Chris? When one person left and one person came on? What was the,
Most people resigned or left voluntarily.
the board was looking to remove someone.
okay, so that's why I'm asking. I don't know what's been done in the past.
We've never physically removed anybody from a committee.
You removed one that I know of, Matt McCourt, because he didn't show up at any of the meetings that we had on the Energy Committee in the beginning.
But that was the recommendation of the Energy Committee,
Correct.
which we would have presumed they would have spoken to him about.
I don't think they did, because he never showed up. That was the problem.
Does this need to be passed tonight, this particular part?
You can pass over
Hey,
part of it if you want. You know, you can accept everybody else except a certain portion, if that's what you so
Well,
desire.
that'd be my recommendation to the other 2 board members. I think we need to see where Jim Chomsky is. He might have reasons why he couldn't attend certain meetings, and he's definitely someone that knows the town of Granby very, very well. So.
I think he definitely still at least needs to be contacted
Not
prior.
a problem, not a problem.
So,
We just gotta make sure we got a quorum, particularly on that committee with all the grants and
no,
stuff.
I definitely understand
Yeah.
that, but as Glenn said, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. However, 50% extenuating, maybe it's something that needs to be dealt with, but
Okay,
contact beforehand.
okay.
So that being said, I will make a motion to approve constables, council on aging, dog officer, alternate dog officers, electrical inspector, emergency management director, and ethics commission liaison.
And I will second Jen's motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Who will be contacting Mr. Trump?
I'll call him, I don't have a problem calling him.
All right, so we have, okay. All right. We're gonna do call force, fire, ambulance. We have Robert Amlaw, firefighter, Alan Ash, firefighter, Andrew Balboni, firefighter, William Bragiel, lieutenant, firefighter, EMTA, Bruce Carpenter, deputy firefighter, Edward Chapdelaine, firefighter, Zachary Sear, EMTB, David Engelbrecht, firefighter, EMTB, Craig Gagney, firefighter, EMTB, Patrick Ganini, maybe, firefighter, thanks, Corey Goet, I'm mutilating that,
No, go on.
firefighter, EMTB, Nicole Gareffi, EMTB, Brad Harrington, firefighter, Pierre Jacques, firefighter, EMTB, Aaron Kerr-David, EMTP, Anthony Lawson, firefighter, Timothy Leary, firefighter, EMTB, Stephen Leokopoulos, firefighter, Alan Leone, firefighter, EMTB, Nathaniel Massey, firefighter, Daniel Menard Jr., EMTB, Colin Mick, firefighter, EMTB, Jose Morales, EMTP, Riley O'Connor, EMTP, Brian Pike, lieutenant firefighter, Austin Plant, firefighter, EMTP, John Sarnacki, EMTB, Michael Sawicki, EMTP, Ethan Seacard, EMTP, Ebony Ivory Shaughnessy, firefighter, Valerie Stein, firefighter, EMTB, Eric Toya, EMTP, Micheline Turgeon, EMTP, Raymond Warren, firefighter, EMTB, Taylor Warren, firefighter, EMTB, and Rachel Weisbord, EMTB, all 2020.
Nice job, all the names.
She's good at it,
I'm gonna need,
a lot better than me. Are there any questions on the call force on page 4?
The only question I have, and this goes back to all of them, Chris, is it June 30th it expires of the year it's listed, correct? Okay.
Has to do with physical.
I have no other questions besides that.
Motion.
And I'll second Jen's motion as
it's
written.
like, don't make me read those again.
Okay, there's any more discussion on page 4? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have full-time, Michael Norcross, firefighter, paramedic, Michael Pandora, firefighter, paramedic, Jean Oz, firefighter, EMTP, Mike Peltier, firefighter, EMTB, and Tyler Vaughn, lieutenant firefighter, paramedic, all 2022. Forest warden, John Mitchell Jr., 2020. Gas inspector, Fred Marion, George Fotopoulos, Michael McCain, all 2020. Granby Agricultural Commission, Evelyn Hatch, 2020. Granby Energy Committee, Lillian Camus, Robert Camus, Leonard Haflick, Jay Joyce, and Mark Vincelette, all 2020. Hampshire County Insurance Advisory Committee, Christopher Martin, 2020. Hampshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee, John Mitchell Jr., 2020. Hazard Mitigation Committee, David DeRocher, Wenda Luft, Christopher Martin, John Mitchell Jr., James Tromke, and Alan Wishart, all 2020.
Can I make a suggestion on the full-timers?
Yes.
I don't think it's really called a paramedic anymore. It's called EMT-P. So if we just change those paramedics to EMT-P instead of paramedic. Because that's what we call everybody else in the list.
EMT paramedic or EMT basic. And there's also an EMTA for EMT ambulance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I probably should have.
No, that's okay. You
Made
wouldn't,
that
you
known.
wouldn't have known that.
No, I did know that, actually.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
I did. I should
Okay.
have made that known when I was
Well.
reading them. Okay.
That's the only suggestion I would make on the list.
You got that, Kathy? She's got it.
Jen's motion as amended?
As amended to EMTP.
Okay. Any further discussion on page 5? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous on page 5?
Okay. Historical Commission. Margaret Ritter Lacasse, 2022, 3-year term. Teresa Johnson, alternate member. Ben Haley, associate member, 2020. Historic District Commission, Stephen Nally, 2022, 3-year. No others. Land Review Committee, Brian Hochschild, William Shaheen, and Wilmot Lewis, all 2020. Local Emergency Planning Committee, David DeRocher, Lee Lalonde, Christopher Martin, Jeffrey McPherson, John Mitchell Jr., and Alan Wishart, all 2020. Local Licensing Agent, Earl Brown, Kirk Carpenter, Barbara Fenn, Detective, Zachary Gilly, Kendall Hill, Stephen Marion, Sergeant, Kevin O'Grady, Lieutenant, Gary Poehler, Sergeant, Jason Richard, Ryan Senecal, James White, Alan Wishart, Chief, all 2020.
On the Historic District Commission?
Yeah.
Steve, you need some help?
You need some help over there.
There's another member, Pat Morris, and William Johnson is an alternate.
So they need to be added to the list.
No, their terms. Their 3-year term isn't up yet.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Okay.
So you've got help.
So there's only 3 of you on that. So you still need help.
It would be nice. It would be nice.
Okay, well, yes, if there's only 3, help as always.
And on the Land Review Committee, I'll tell you that Wilmot Lewis was put on at the committee's request because the other individual, Jim Tromke, has not showed up for a meeting. If you want me to talk to him about that at the same time, I will.
So the Land Review Committee requested
Yes.
Mr. Tromke be removed and Mr. Lewis be added?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Hochschild, because he hasn't showed up to a meeting.
So are we assuming that Mr. Hochschild spoke to Mr. Tromke?
I don't believe he did. I don't know. I just know he was upstairs in Chris's office and I was there, and he made the statement that he hasn't showed up for a meeting at all. And then he wanted a replacement. He did say he wanted Wilmot Lewis, but he didn't say that he talked to Mr. Tromke.
Okay. But this was coming from Mr. Hochschild.
This is coming from Brian Hochschild. So however you...
When Land Review Committee was put together, we wanted someone representing the Board of Selectmen, one representing Conservation, and one representing Planning.
And now we have...
We don't have 2 conservations and 1 person. Do you want to put another planning person on there? How do you want to handle it from the planning side? Or you want to go with Brian's recommendation?
Well, I think it's important we have someone from the planning board on there. So I'd reach out to the planning board and ask if any of those members wish to be part of this committee.
Okay, that's fine. Then
We can do that.
This one minus that 1 committee then, like we did the last page.
Well, again, and I go back to the same thing. I want to ensure this board is confirming these appointments. I want to make sure that the boards are doing their part and notification is done before we remove someone from a committee.
And like I said, we'll approve this page minus the land review committee and
Okay.
tell Mr. Hochschild that you want to have a planning board person on there, and you're gonna go back to your people and see if somebody,
Not my people.
well, you're the chairman of the planning board, okay? You know what I'm trying to say.
When does the planning board meet next?
Next Monday.
Would you desire a letter be drafted from the select board to the planning board indicating the issue of non-attendance on this committee, and if there's anybody on your board who wishes to be on this committee?
Well, I think the land review committee and Brian is the chair, I take it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know, so I'm just,
I've never seen them organize or any of that stuff.
Oh, okay,
I think it's
so-
just,
He just told me
Alright.
to share. I don't
Okay,
see it
so-
writing, but I can go through
I just want some confirmation from him that he spoke to Jim Tropke, and then I'll be glad to bring a letter from the select board to the planning board requesting a member from the planning board to be part of the land review committee.
Jay, did Mr. Hochschild give it to you verbally, or,
on the phone, yeah.
oh, so it was verbally, nothing in writing?
No, it was on the phone.
Okay. In that,
He did say it upstairs in Chris's office about Mr. Tromke not attending any of the meetings. He gave me the name of Will Lewis over the phone. So there was 2 different time periods that he put it out. One, he needed a replacement, and then he came back and says he'll take Will Lewis.
okay, I'm just a fan of CYA, Memo the World.
Oh, I have no problem with that, any?
I like things in writing.
Okay.
All right, well then, I will make the motion to accept the Historical Commission, the Historic District Commission, the Local Emergency Planning Committee, and the Local Licensing Agent.
And I'll second Jen's motion as read.
Any more discussion on page 6? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, Municipal Hearing Officer, Christopher Martin, 2020. Open Space Plan Committee, Louis Barry, William Shaheen, Megan Slosick, 2020. Parking Clerk, Gregory Briggs, Mark Johnson, Assistant, William Johnson, Assistant, 2020. Park Police, Earl Brown, Kurt Carpenter, Barbara Fenn, Detective, Zachary Gilly, Kendall Hill, Stephen Marion, Sergeant, Kevin O'Grady, Lieutenant, Gary Poehler, Sergeant, Jason Richard, Ryan Senecal, James White, and Alan Wishart, Chief, all 2020. Parks Oversight Ad Hoc Committee, Louis Barry, Brian Hochschild Sr., William Johnson, Kimberly Myers, Megan Slosick, and Kathy Leonard, Associate Member, all 2020.
Is there a reason that all our police officers have to be appointed park police too?
according to Chief Wishart, that they cannot enforce bylaws of an ad hoc subcommittee, only the general bylaws of the town, or Mass General Law. So, in order for them to be able to enforce the rules and regs of the park committee, which has to do with leashing of your dog, poop patrol, you name it, they have to be named park police by the Board of Selectmen, and then inside the regulations, it is mentioned that the park police shall be the enforcing officials for and in all violations of said regulations.
Well, it sounds like it's one of those Massachusetts general laws, like I had to get the people's approval to be on the select board and to be on a committee of the select board.
Well, why is it that the Parks Oversight is the only ad hoc we have?
No, all these are ad hoc. The
They're
Energy
all?
Committee is an ad hoc.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they're all ad hoc because they all report back to the board. They can't make a decision without getting board approval.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'd be making every decision for every one of these committees. on behalf
And
of-
they don't go to other boards or other committees except to gather information. They don't make decisions between each other.
Gotcha.
Okay, page 7. Motion for page 7?
Motion has been made.
Second?
Second Jen's motion as read.
Okay, any more discussion on page 7? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Page 7 is unanimous.
Personnel Board, Brian Hochschild, Albert Bale, Richard Bollier, 2022, 3-year terms. Christopher Martin, ex officio. Dennis LaFleur, associate member, 2020. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission representative, Lillian Camus. Jay Joyce, alternate, 2020. PVPC, Joint Transportation Committee, David DeRocher, 2020. Plumbing Inspector, Fred Marion, George Fotopoulos, Assistant, Michael McCain, Assistant, all 2020. Part-time officers, Ryan Bartholet, Sean Gallagher, Ian Howard, Eric Jorgensen, and Jeffrey L. Reed, all 2020. Police Advisory Committee, William Barrett, William E. Johnson, Scott Merrill, Lynn Snowpeck Mercier, Wayne Wilson, and Sean Gallagher, a non-voting member, all 2020. And Public Safety Liaison, Kevin O'Grady, Lieutenant, 2020.
Jay, with the PVPC,
Yes.
you as an alternate member, is there a reason for that? Something, the reason why you want to do it, or is that something you think we should push back to the planning board
Actually,
and look for?
it used to be the planning board was the primary, and
Right.
Mr. Martin was the alternate. And I just said, I'll stay on as alternate with the planning board member in lieu of Mr. Martin, because I've been doing it for all those years anyways.
Okay.
That was the only reason, because Mr. Martin gave his up because he didn't have the time to attend all the meetings and stuff of PVPC.
Okay, no, fine, just wanted to ask.
You have a right to ask. I'm just explaining to you the reason why he gave it up, and I said I'll be it. Okay, that page 8. Any more questions on page 8? Okay, I take it you made the motion on it?
Motion made.
Okay, and I'll second Jen's motion as read.
Any more questions or discussion on page number 8? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye is unanimous on page 8.
Sign Officer, Gregory Briggs, 2020. Stormwater, Phase 2, Gregory Briggs, David DeRocher, Lee Lalonde, John Mitchell Jr., and William Shaheen, all 2020. Town Accountant, Christopher Martin, 2020. Town Council, Brian O'Toole, 2020. Town Bylaw Review Committee, Albert Bale, Brian Hochschild, Christopher Martin, ex officio, Virginia Snowpeck, Alan Wishart, and Stephen Nally, all 2020. Town of Granby Sexual Harassment Officer, Chloe Cantor and John Mitchell Jr., 2020. Tree Warden, David DeRocher, 2020. Granby Veterans Agent, John Mitchell Jr., 2020.
Town Council, it's Brian O'Toole. Should it be his office, or just Brian O'Toole?
We have to actually
Name the attorney?
So
Okay.
we can't name
office.
Ryan Boudreau or Bacon Wilson or any of that. No,
Okay, so it's
we,
got to be the exact
Gotta be the
attorney's
exact
name?
person.
yes.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think that you made the motion when you read it, right, Jen?
And I'll
did indeed.
second Jen's motion as read.
Okay, any more questions or discussion on page 9 of the appointments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous on the ayes on page 9 of the appointments. One more to go.
Veteran War Memorial Committee, Joshua Bouchard, Robert Chauvin, Jason Richard, Jeffrey Rule, Brian Sowell, James Sowell, and Stephen Weatherby, all 2020. West Street School Building Committee, Mark Bale, Emery Everin, John Libera, Christopher Martin, James Morrissey, William Latoy, James Petrus, Lynn Snowpeck Mercier, Cheryl Stanton, and John Sullivan Jr., all 2020. Western Mass Regional Local Emergency, Christopher Martin, John Mitchell Jr., all 2020. Westover Metropolitan Development Corporation, John Libera Jr., 2020. Zoning Enforcement Officer, Gregory Briggs, 2020. Finance Committee, Scott Wilson, 2020, 3-year. And an open 2020, I'm sorry, I lied. Scott Wilson, 2022, 3-year term, and an open 2022 3-year term.
And I take the finance committees because Rob moved to Northampton? Is that why it's open?
He's moved out of town.
Yep.
Yeah, he moved out of town. And on the West Street School Building Committee, once MSBA gives it completely over to the town, I take it that committee will go away?
Once all the final paperwork.
Well, that's what I meant. Once the town takes ownership of it.
Once all the final paperwork and the project is closed out, then yes, the need for this committee will end.
I'll second Jen's motion as read.
Any more discussion on page 10 of the appointees?
Nope.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. All right, so,
That is good. The Economic Development Letter.
oh, I have,
Well, we always make 3 copies.
I know.
And this is the perfect example, Jen, of a committee appointed by the select board, reporting their stuff back to the select board, so the select board can make a decision if they want to forward it to another board or committee. Basically, within this one here, these are the recommendations from the Granby Economic Development Growth Committee. Number 1, extend industrial park, number 1, park zoning, i.e. across from the old dump. Where it is, they have Industrial Park 1 goes up to about Morgan Street. I'm going to call it the extension over to the Westover side. And then it goes a little bit residential, 2 up, but I think it's 6 or 7 houses. But once it hits there, it's zone residential completely to the South Hadley line. And the Economic Committee is looking at, we don't feel that anybody is going to build a house across from the dump. And to make that attractive for economic development for our town, particularly since there's water there, there's natural gas there, the only thing they're lacking is sewer, that if they recommending to the planning board to consider extending the, that portion from the old dump, you know which parts I'm talking about, right, Flynn?
Isn't that part swampy?
I was told it's swampy on the New Ludlow Road side, but on the Westover side, it's all good land to build. And Westover is now a 24/7 airport, and Perimeter Road that goes around there, you can see that it's all good land. So they could build something in there, say a Federal Express or something like that, and then we could earn revenue from it. But since it's zoned residential, single family right now, we can't do it. So that's why the Economic Committee is recommending to rezoning that to the extension of Industrial Park 1. So I don't know how we want to discuss this. Do we want to discuss it now, each one individually, and see if we want to forward it, or do we want to go through the entire list and then pick from there?
I think we go one by one, that way.
I think it's easier that way.
As we're going down.
Because, you know, being on the committee, I recommend we send this recommendation to the planning board for their consideration.
I agree.
I would agree with that. I mean, if it's a chance to bring.
Yeah, and who's going to build a house on the swampy side next to a dump? That was the idea.
Stranger things happen.
So, Chris, we're going to draft a letter to the planning board for, I'll call it bullet number 1, because it's not numbered. The second one was update the Granby Community Compact to current requirements. In the Reader's Digest version, if you go to mass.gov and you go to Community Compact, back in 2015, the state had a way of asking the communities, give me your 3 top issues that you want to address in your municipality. Based upon that, everybody gave the state 3 of the top issues. One of the things was energy, which we did with the Green Community Act. But as of 2016, they were supposed to reduce it to 2. Our community compact has not been updated since originally was done in 2015. So the Economic Development Committee is recommending 2 projects through Community Compact. And that's planning and pre-development study leading to economic development, and there is a grant available, and I'll explain that in a second. And also an information technology, IT infrastructure study for the entire town. What the Community Compact does, if you apply for a grant to the state, and that is listed as one of your hitters, you automatically get more points on getting that grant. So it's to the town's advantage to pick out things that they need to prioritize and get done that grants are available for.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. There are other ones out there. If you want to go out and look at them, that's entirely up to both of you. This is just a recommendation of the Economic Committee. For IT infrastructure, as you may or may not know, I've designed and built computer networks both for the Department of Defense and the Army. And I can tell you this town could use a definite upgrade in the wiring and the infrastructure to include all departments in the school. And then as we're doing the infrastructure upgrade around 202, this will help us with our points to get grants if we include it in there. If you want to approve that, that's up to you, or you could do more research and see what else. There's a whole bunch of them out there, all best practices listed. And you have to go through, you only can pick 2. And you can change the 2 every year.
Okay.
You can
Is there a cost to change that?
No, all it is a letter to Boston and let them know what your top 2 priorities are. Okay, and information on the information technology grant, that's only available to a community every other year. So if we were to apply and get one for this year, we would not be eligible for 2 years. They make that clear in their grant on that. So I'll leave it up to you two. If you want to do research on them or accept the committee's recommendation, it's entirely up to you. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't have agreed to put this on here with a vote with the committee if I didn't agree with it.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if the committee has done the background work into looking into it, then we have them for a reason, and I guess I'm going to have to trust that they've researched it
I agree.
and save us some time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure you
vote-
looked at probably many other possibilities, and looking at those two, I think those are two of the least
top we
top
figured.
topics, but that definitely would impact the town, things that we need to look at as far as the town,
Right.
so.
And like I say, everybody's free to go out there, because if we do put the IT technology infrastructure in there and we do get a grant, which I don't think we are, because we have no engineering data at this point to submit to approve it.
So is it feasible to do it?
Right, would it be better off to pick a different?
Well, at the time, we did this in May. You see,
Okay.
the letter was dated in May, and at that time, we were hoping there would be some free cash available to do the study, get the engineering data, because you only can apply for that grant in the July, August timeframe every year.
Okay,
So we were preparing for July. In May is what we were doing. But we have no engineering data. So if we wanted to pick another one now, that would be perfectly fine, because we have nothing to submit to support our justification why.
I would feel good about picking something different then,
Okay, then
actually.
why don't we just table that one
Yep.
until our next meeting? And then you can go to mass.gov and put in Community Compact, and you can look at them all.
Why wouldn't we just send this back to the committee to look at? Why?
We can do that too.
That would be my recommendation, that's why we have the committee.
That's why we have a committee.
Okay, let's go back to committee.
Sorry, we're gonna make you work.
I don't care. We did enough work to get this way, because next year we can just use the information we got for this year and apply it for the IT. But you can see where it's dated in May.
Yeah.
That's why we were getting ready for July and August.
Yeah, but if we're gonna do the work, I'd at least like to make it
Something
count.
we can use.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The third bullet is update the Granby master plan as required. One of the things we did do under climate change We did all the work on municipal vulnerability preparedness when we put in for the grants and stuff. Well, none of that's in the master plan. We have to put that in. And when the committee looked at the master plan, there are some sections of the master plan that haven't been updated since 2008. We should probably look at them. I know the planning board did, was it 2016 we did it? When we had Larry Smith in them?
Yeah.
But there are other sections of the master plan that hasn't been updated.
Right, there's a lot of
Right.
things that we just made updates to it.
Right. So, I mean, how we want to assign that to who and what and when, open to suggestions.
I think it's something that can be asked of the planning board. I mean, they've done it the past several times as far as the updates regarding the master plan for the town.
I have no problem if you want to give the planning board that. Like Lou Barry, remember he did that open space and recreational update? So, I mean,
Right, the planning board would also look to different committees as well as for them and their input.
okay,
But I think
But you're
the
saying,
planning board would be the
okay,
engine, if you will, for the.
okay. So on bullet number 3, we'll have them draft a letter from the select board to the planning board. Do you want us to do separate letters on the first and the third bullets for the planning board, or put them on the same letter?
I think 2 separate letters.
2 separate letters?
Yeah, you don't want to make the chair mad. the
Yeah, well,
planning
that's why
board.
I'm asking it, so we get it clear.
2 separate items.
Okay, so it'll be 2 separate letters, one for bullet 1 and one for bullet 3 to the planning board. Okay, number 4, the rezoning of the Westover noise abatement area to meet the new requirements. I don't know if anybody knows it, John LaBarra is the Westover Metropolitan District Commission chairman of their committee, who's also a chairman of our finance committee. I'm trying to think of the guy's name now. I know I got it in here. Clarissa?
Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton. He is the full-time person in charge over there. And basically, with the new M model engines, they are shrinking the noise abatement area. When they shrink the noise abatement area, all the property that used to be in the old noise abatement area is going to become available for leasing. But there's a stipulation. It cannot be leased for any residential purposes. So it can only be leased for either industrial or business or something like that. And currently that whole area is zone residential.
So I was going to ask.
Right.
You'd have to rezone it.
That's why the Economic Development Committee put in suggestion that we rezone that area, maybe to mixed, or maybe do an overlay, Glenn, or something on all the area.
Do you know what the new rules state that the,
John LaBarra is going to give us a copy of it as soon as they have a draft out, but they haven't released it yet. And John LaBarra and Michael Bolton is going to give us a copy as soon as they get it.
As this changes as far as the new engines and stuff, which is making it much quieter, they can't sell the property? They're going to lease the property?
Yes. I asked that question too.
There's any possibility they may take
They
that
take
to
it
court
back.
and see if there's something they can do, since when that was done, it was based on the noise level from the C5s. Obviously, that has changed. Is it?
When I first heard about that, I did ask that question, and the answer I was given was, Westover Metropolitan District Commission would rather have the land leased out than sold. Because if the land all gets sold, then Westover Metropolitan District doesn't have any more work. If they were to sell all that land off, or less work, put it that way. I shouldn't say no work, less work. So they talked to the federal government that owned it, and they decided to lease it. Because I did ask that question, if that land could possibly go for sale. And currently, they say no, it's going to be leased out. That was their decision. But either way, if it went for sale, I don't know what stipulations they might put on it, going through the deed process or whatever. But currently, they're saying it cannot be used for any residential uses.
But the issue is, it may also be something tied into the FAA grant funding for the purchase that you're not allowed to resell it.
Oh, I don't know. I asked
You
the
know,
question.
you got to look at the monies that were appropriated for the FAA for this type of purchase program and see, did it prohibit resale?
There's always,
Stipulated.
just, you could probably go back and say, well, whatever, we decided to pay X amount of dollars back so we can sell the property. Who knows? I mean, back then when they did it,
Right.
there's reasons why they did it, and who knows, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
15, 20 years later, you have quieter engines that make a difference.
Also, they did say that any resident currently living in the current noise abatement area that have already contacted the federal government will still possibly purchase their property. Because but if you haven't contacted the federal government yet, you're out of luck. You had to make contact with the federal government already.
I guess I'd like to reach out and research that more, not us, but the committee, because I'm not in favor of putting buildings and stuff next to someone's house.
Right.
I'm not in favor of that.
I don't know what we're going to do with it, but they're just looking for ways to make revenues. That's why we can't use it for residential. What are we going to do with it?
Well, I understand that, but that's kind of just a personal opinion where you're sending back, you're looking to rezone it, and then whether it's an overlay or not, you could have the possibility of someone putting up, leasing a building or leasing property, someone builds a building right next to someone else's house, which is residential.
Which we do have on Route 202, as it is now.
I know.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
But you also have to understand, these pieces of property that were bought by WMDC are tax-exempt pieces of property in the town of Granby.
Yep.
So if they lease a piece of property, we're not going to get any revenue from it.
right, so that's what I'm saying. So this isn't really anything that's going to benefit the town financially or residentially for people that are
The
living.
only thing you'll get, if anything, is personal property tax for inventory. You know, you're not going to get taxation based upon the price of a building.
Because it's still going to be owned by the federal government.
I would truly like to see, if there's, you know,
Let's wait for John.
reach out to them as, again, if they could sell it back somehow, because it'd be nice to see houses put back up there. You know, some of those areas that don't have homes there anymore, you know?
I don't disagree with you. I'm just telling you
Which may
what they
not-
give us, the conditions.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
It's more of a pipe dream, I would say, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see something like that, and that neighborhood be brought back up.
If that's one thing we did ask John LaBarra, if it could be sold, because how many businesses want to build a building on somebody else's land? You know, you think that you want to build on.
Most office, federal government does that.
Oh, do they really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Okay, so we'll just table that one with the committee for right now and leave it there, and we'll wait for John LaBarra to issue a letter and see what they have to say. You know, that's Michael Bolton, that's correct. Now that Chris says it, I do remember that now. And I do have an email that says he's supposed to be sending it to us shortly. Okay, the next bullet was the sidewalk snow removal bylaw due to the upgrading of Route 202 by the state. Next spring, in the year of 2020, sidewalks will be installed from the South Hadley line to approximately Pizza Palace. From the way it was explained to me, if you don't have a bylaw that makes the abutting property owner responsible for removing the snow, then the town's responsible for removing it. Most other municipalities have the people that live along the sidewalk remove the snow within 24 hours. That's new to Granby, but from what I've been told, that's not new to other municipalities.
Whether it's a bylaw or an ordinance of cities, they have where they have to.
You're responsible for the sidewalk in front of your property.
Do you want to recommend we send a letter to the general bylaw committee to create a bylaw to get ready for next winter?
Yeah.
I'm in favor of that.
I
I
would
mean,
be
there's
in
other
favor of that.
sidewalks in town too that's going to affect as well.
Right.
One's
But
by
I think it's
Deerbrook.
important because
You're right,
They
but
use that.
like CVS does their own on their own, but
Yep.
there's nothing requires them to do it unless there's something written somewhere that I don't know about.
well, that might be a a safety issue for CBS for liability.
Anything, I was about to say, I don't see anything in writing. General Bylaw Committee letter. And the last one was on Route 202 upgrade. This is gonna be out there a ways because I don't think they're gonna be up to the village center before 4 or 5 years, is a guess at the rate they're going, particularly since they just pushed the Five Corners intersection to 2023. The committee thought it would be nice to go through village center, get rid of the telephone poles if we can, put the because they gotta have to do all the digging anyways, put the utilities underground, and you know those old historic type telephone pole, light poles like they have in Holyoke and other towns, to put it there in the village center. That was just an idea to make the village center look nice.
I think it would look nice.
I think it would look very nice. I have a question on, you know, when it says historic-looking streetlights, which historic period are we looking at?
To Steve right there.
Are we looking like the
How
gas?
do you feel about that idea, Steve?
Like the gaslit
I think the
lantern?
idea is great. I don't think the Historic District Commission has any authority over it.
No, we were just saying that the select board, when they come up Route 202, maybe talk to Mass DOT about doing that along with National Grid, because they're gonna have to move a lot of stuff anyways. And the Economic Development Committee say, you know, that might be a way to make our village center look better.
Certainly underground utilities is the better way to do it.
Right. It's just a suggestion from the committee, that's all it is. Again, what this board does with it here is what this board does with it. But we don't want to stop the ideas coming out if it's going to enhance the town.
I'd like to see a cost estimate of what it would.
I'm not concerned with that now, because it's 2023, whatever that.
That's going to be more than that.
Well, we know it'll be more.
But I mean, why even look at something now, because down the road, it could be a lot more, it could be a different board.
Different price.
You may want to reach out to National Grid to
Right.
see if there's any issues with them putting the utilities. Talk to Granby, or, I'm sorry,
Bill White.
OTT, talk to OTT about the phone lines, talk to Comcast about the, we really should be contacting utility companies to see if there's an issue with doing that before you say, oh, we're just going to put them all underground.
They just made
I
this.
understand that, and there's steps that we'd have to take, but I'm also saying it's not till
But
2023.
We don't know how fast their construction programs operate, where you may have to get into the queue now for 2 or 3 years out.
For National Grid to plan their money.
I'm just saying,
I guess it's time for us to start being proactive.
Yes, that's all the committee's trying to be. Here's an idea, what do you think about it?
But also, there's a lot of the cost that's could pose to people that live on that area though, too.
but we should start at least talking with the utility companies, see,
Investigating.
is there a cost associated with it?
Right.
Sure, there may be.
Questions?
They're gonna want us to pay for the wire and the conduit, I'm sure.
And they may have to put vaults like they do in the cities to be able to service the underground lines.
I don't see them picking up the tab for it.
They might if it means less work for them come storms.
Well, the thing of it is.
Underground utilities mean no power outages due to lines coming down.
Yeah, and what the Economic Development Committee was looking at, if Mass DOT was going to in-kind fund us $560,000 when we put the water pipes in for Phase 1, they could possibly in-kind fund the utilities since they're doing the work anyways, because the road's going to be 11 feet wider if they put sidewalks on both sides, and it with the 3-foot bike lane. So they may be doing some of the work there that could save the utility company money by installing it if they work together. That was the general idea.
Asking questions never hurts.
Okay, who would we want to sign that to contact the utilities to?
I would say,
You want to send it back to the
I would
Economic
send it back.
Development?
Yeah, leave it where it is because I'm going to
Okay,
consider
that's
it
what I'm just
growth.
saying. But again,
I think it's a great idea as far as
Right.
the new lights or new lanterns, whatever we put there, I think to dress up that area, I think it's a great idea, but, you know.
but again, we didn't want to spend any time on it if the board here wasn't interested in it. Okay, just to rehash this, so we got it straight. Bullet 1, a letter's going to the planning board for their consideration to extend the zoning, and you can explain it in more detail when you get there, right, Glenn?
Yes.
Okay. Bullet number 2 is going back to the Economic Development Committee and look for a second bullet to replace the IT infrastructure. And just be advised, we'll have to look at the different grants when they come out on what to do, because we may leave the first one but may be replaced, because again, this letter was dated in May. Bullet number 3, a letter going to the planning board to update the Granby master plan. And you can explain that one too, Glenn, no problem?
Yes.
Okay. Bullet number 4, the rezoning of Westover. We'll wait for the letter from Michael Bolton and John LaBera and then see what it has to say before we make any decisions about that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead.
I think the letters that we're sending to the planning board should be exactly what we want. We're asking the planning board.
But then we'll just have them draft it up, and we'll review them, and then we'll make sure it's the way we want them before we send them out.
Right. I think it should be exactly what the board wants instead of me trying to.
All we're
Or
asking them is to
translating.
draft up these letters right now.
Yeah. No, I just mean that.
Yeah.
I think letters should be specific to what we want.
Oh, yeah, just like Crystal's going to redo her regulations and then bring them back to the board for signature. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we need to draft another letter to the General Bylaw Committee about the snow removal for the sidewalks. And I didn't touch on 2 or 6 because I'm just going to bring them back to the Economic Development Committee myself. So there's no sense writing up anything for that as far as I'm concerned. It's a subcommittee of the select board, and I can just explain what the select board decisions were on those 2 bullets. Any problem with that?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. Are we all set, Kathy? I just want to make sure. Okay. The last thing is the FY21 budget. I had a discussion with John LaBera, and after a lot of people complained to me about on the FY19 budget when the school didn't turn in their surplus of money, and a lot of people were upset to say we've been funding the schools all this time, now they got surplus and they're not letting the tax. Basically what they were saying was, why didn't the school turn the money back on in, and then the voters could decide how to redistribute it? Maybe it was back to the school if they had an article with a good idea. Maybe it was to something else. But for them just to say, we're going to spend it, the people were not happy with it. And so talking to John LaBera says, well, we can't do anything for FY20 budget, so you have to start looking at FY21 budget. And first thing he recommended is we have a joint meeting with the school and the finance committee on how we're going to address this for the future. Because what happens in the FY20 budget if the school comes up with another surplus? Are they just going to go out and spend it? Because like if the highway department has extra money, and I'm using them in case we have a mild winter, they would return their snow money and salt money back into the town so the taxpayers could redistribute as they see fit. Well, the school's the only department not turning the funds back in, so the taxpayers have a right how to redistribute it. They're just spending it on their own. And I can tell you right now, what they're spending on, they have no engineering justification for what they're doing.
Well,
we did talk about that at our joint meeting.
So they're not required to give it back.
According to the way they're issued it, when they're issued the money in their general fund, they don't have to give it back. If the town issued it to them in an article, then they would have no choice but to spend it on that article. But by putting it in their general fund, they can do what they want with it. Even though they tell you they can do this right now, 5 minutes later they can change their mind, and there's nothing the town can do about it. So the thing of it is, every other department has their budget, and then they go in for articles. And the articles, for the most part, are $25,000 and over, because those articles have to be run to the Capital Improvement Committee. Well, it also turns out, we just found out Friday, that the school's spending over $25,000 per item, and they never ran it through capital improvement. So they're violating our bylaws.
Has this been discussed with them?
No, that's what I'm saying, well, we should have a meeting with both committees as soon as possible. We just found out Friday,
Oh, this Friday.
yes.
Who found out?
Chris and I.
Okay.
Chris told me about it because he's the accountant. Because he,
What happened?
yeah,
As part of the FY20 budget, they're talking FY19 surplus funds. They bought Chromebooks for the high school. They received a couple bids. They put it on IFB for it. They got bids back, and the lowest bid was around $54,000. They followed Chapter 30B procurement laws, but the question is, to my knowledge, they never went in front of capital improvement to get permission for purchase of more than $25,000 worth of computer equipment, which, according to our bylaws, anything that has a useful life of 5 years or more and $25,000 or more has to go through them.
so the question comes down, what bylaws are we going to enforce and what bylaws are we not going to enforce? That's why you said we bring them in and tell them what's going on.
So I think it's a conversation that Chris can have with the,
I feel with Adam at this point.
Yep.
speak with Adam, find out what happened and find out if it was definitely done, because we don't know if it was done or if it
No,
wasn't
I
done.
don't.
We're just making an assumption, so let's ask Chris to follow up with Adam and see if it's been done, not done. If it has been done, is there a way they can correct that? I mean, I don't think it was, I don't know if it was
I don't think it was done malicious.
malicious, and I don't, that's why I make sure that they understood. They followed the other procedures, maybe thinking that they were okay. We don't know that. So again, I don't want to speak to it because we don't know if they didn't go through them or not. So I don't really want to speak to that. If you have all the facts here, then I'm glad to speak about it. We don't have all the facts.
No, we don't have all the facts. That's one reason I said we get both the school and the finance committee together with us in an upcoming meeting. And
I always think that's a good idea.
yeah.
So
Open communication.
We don't have the facts yet, so why are we bringing the committees all together? This might be a,
No, Jay is talking
oh,
to talk about the FY21
On
budget.
budget.
Start the budget
And the
talks.
issue of retaining surplus funds and not just spending them for the sake of spending. That's what he's been just
I mean,
talking about, Glenn.
I'd be interested,
Before
do they
that.
have a reason
Huh?
for it?
no, before that, I mean,
Yeah.
but they're not required to.
No.
I guess is what I'm looking at, so what do we, they can come back and say no, and I guess, Chris, at the town meeting, because someone spoke up and requested or put a amendment out, so they had to return at that time. Is that something that could have been done?
Sure, but they could have funded it through this year's budget or...
No, I mean, so there's the money that the,
What they would have had to have done is, and I don't think it would have been within the scope of any of the articles on the warrant, they would have had to have put a petition article to request a rescission of the, whatever article was giving the additional 158,000, a rescission of that vote, which would have then reduce their spending capacity by $158,000. And you would have the discussion during that. It can't just be done during a regular annual article discussion with the school. It would have to be something that would have to be petitioned.
a different one that could be brought up, but the townspeople, if you will, could have brought something up at the town meeting.
Well, I don't think they
But
really,
they couldn't have voted on it,
Okay.
because they didn't warn the inhabitants that that discussion was going to occur. That's the reason we issued the warrant, is we're warning them. Okay, now if an article was put in there to see if the town will vote to rescind the vote taken on article whatever on such and such a date in the amount of whatever, then people will come out to debate whether or not to keep that money with the department or to actually rescind it, reducing their capacity to spend.
and since this was we're talking about different types of money. The money, the surplus was FY19 money, and there's no way you're going to get that back because they were just going out and spending it. Because they had to
Going out and
spend.
spending it on things the school needed. They bought
In their opinion,
Chromebooks.
not the taxpayers, in their opinion. That's all I'm saying.
I'd like to hear their reasoning and their thought process.
Okay.
I mean, the schools have long
The
been,
people elect the school committee. So those people that elected the school committee is speaking for the people that elected them.
But the issue is, during the whole FY20 budget discussion, they were identifying $139,000 in excess FY19 funds that they were going to use to spend. Chromebooks, computers for the office, other pieces of equipment to improve their infrastructure, to increase their speed. Jay, don't go down there. Okay, and other type of improvements that they did that study, and that guy came to their meeting and recommended these purchases. They're following those recommendations. Okay, the Chromebooks was part of that stuff that they were purchasing. If we go back and look at the detail of what they were going to spend $139,000 on, Chromebooks were part of that. They didn't give it a number, how many they were going to buy, but there was that included as part of that for FY19 surplus funds of $139,000. The question is, what else did they purchase for the $139,000 by June 30th? Okay, and that's all I'm saying. There was notification to us as part of the budget process. They followed 30B on this one item because I was able to see everything.
so the town wasn't blindsided by it.
Well, Mr. Martin had a,
I don't think it was, because it was televised, the meeting between the selectmen, the finance committee, and the school committee, and that $139,000 was discussed at public meetings. Now, did we get into, well, I'm going to buy 300 Chromebooks, I'm going to buy 5 laptops, I'm going to buy...
It was discussed that there was a surplus.
Yes,
And no
and-
one raised a fuss about it
They-
prior to town meeting?
no.
No.
Well, See,
that what I'm
they originally
understanding?
wanted
Yes.
to transfer the excess FY19 funds into FY20. And Mr. Martin explained to them, you
You
cannot
can't do
do
that.
that. That's what Mr. Martin had to explain to them. That's what they were planning on doing. And since they couldn't transfer it to FY20, they said, well, we're going to spend it now instead.
But I guess where I'm going with this is, these were all done televised meetings, people had a chance, they heard it, it wasn't something that the school department was hiding, because they don't
No,
generally.
nobody said they was hiding it.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
but nobody spoke up about it until town meeting. What caused, I don't even think it matters really, but what caused the uproar at town meeting when there was months of preparation where something could have been said?
I can't answer for anybody else's.
But I mean, given that the town was aware, for the most part during joint meetings, that there was a surplus and that it was going to be used,
They were planning on using
I think
$139,000 in surplus funds, yes.
I don't necessarily know that that's something that we should even concern ourselves with, given that they were open about the fact that there was a surplus and they were going to spend it.
Yeah, the question came up, if they have a surplus in FY20, are they just going to spend it, or are they going to turn it back into the
Unless
town?
the law says differently, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to.
And that's why the people were saying, then fine, we'll give them their budget. It'll be net school spending. They want anything else, they can go article by article like every other department in the town.
And that's something that could be addressed as well and looked
Right,
at.
and that's why the meeting
That
between the
makes the
school...
meetings much longer.
Well, that's meeting between the school, the finance, and the select board can try to figure out what we're going to do. Otherwise, like I say the highway department we have a mild winter. Are we going to tell them, go ahead and spend their money, buy what you want? There's no difference.
Is
The
the
te-
highway department required to give it back their
Because
excess money?
he makes them give them back.
No, are they required to give it back?
No, they're not, but I hold a tighter rein on them than necessary.
That's right.
Because I make sure we have enough salt, we have enough sand, everything is done. But if David wants to go and buy a plow or go and buy a piece of software or something, he has to fully justify it to me before I'll allow it to even be considered.
So there is a difference between the fire department, the police department, the highway department. The school is a different department. The school has an elected board that oversees that. So I think we're trying to, we're elected board as well. They can simply say, no, we're not giving it back. And that's their right to do so.
You could say that for every one of your departments.
Yep.
Police, fire, highway, building, myself. Spend it. Don't give it back, spend it.
Then there'd be no free cash.
But what I'm saying is also they're looking to say, again, we're going to give it back. Okay, fine. I don't want this to be that we're looking for the school department to give something back, and then the school says, well, no, we really don't want to give it back. And then what, are they the bad people now because they don't want to give it back?
I think.
I mean, this is crazy.
Surplus should give it back, and then the taxpayers can decide what they want to do with their excess money.
That is your opinion,
regardless
Jay,
of what department.
I hear what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and I value your opinion, but the law states something different.
Unless we give it to them article by article.
So what they'll do, they tell you all the salaries, see anything above net school spending.
Mm-hmm.
I think the school in the past several years has put something together. This is the first year. They haven't come back and asked the town for additional money, additional funds. And here I think they spent accordingly. They have some excess money, and now I don't see them spending it. Right. I mean, they're putting it to what the school needs, and I respect that. I respect the school committee for the job that they do, and they're the gatekeeper for those funds. But I guess what I'm saying is that the finance committee meets, the school committee meets, and we all meet together. At the end, there's nothing we can say or do that says they have to give it back.
I still think a joint meeting, so everybody's on the same page and everybody understands why. Their reasons may be just we don't want to, or it may be, hey, we're...
The school committee, well...
That study that was done, and the
Right.
report that came up.
Right, so they're working on improving
Yes.
our educational system, which they haven't been able to do in years because bare bones with everything they asked for anyway. Maybe, and I won't speak for them because that's not my department, but maybe after a few years, if they can keep getting some excess, they will start giving back once they're on an even keel. But they're working really hard to get it back. I mean, I don't necessarily know that we need to make a big hullabaloo about it.
Jay, if you wish for these committees to meet together, I'll support that.
Yeah,
But I think just when it's all said and done, there's nothing that we can do we can explain things, and I personally I don't agree with that. So I mean, but again, they're an elected committee that is responsible to the taxpayers and the voters.
I'm not disagreeing with any of it. I'm just bringing the people that came up to me and said they were upset with this, and there's other people that were upset with it. I'm just saying, well, there's nothing I can do about it because I explained it to them exactly like you just explained it to me.
And I think if people are upset about it, instead of telling you about it, they should be calling the school committee members
I told them
and
go
telling
see
them about it.
I told them to go see the school committee.
And let
I said,
them-
"There's
let them
nothing I can
know."
do about it.
Because, like I said, in reality is there's nothing that we can do, except have a joint committee meeting or a board meeting amongst the finance committee, the school committee, and ourselves.
And that's why I said for FY '21, not touching 20, 19's over with, we're not doing anything with 20, just looking ahead down the road. How can we make all the committees and everybody else happy? Is that possible? like you said, being proactive in it.
Everybody has different views,
Was it
everybody has different
committees
opinions.
that were
so.
complaining, or individual town members?
Individual town members.
Well,
Well, then
again,
I don't see any committees being unhappy. Granted, I don't know if they are or not.
I think those individual town members should reach out to
To the school committee.
committee members, and if they do not like what was done, they should voice their concerns with them. And obviously, everybody comes up for elections, and that's when someone's voice can be heard.
I mean, I still like the idea of joint meeting, because being on the same page and understanding is half the battle.
But I truly believe.
But I don't want to go into it with
I don't want to go in
the-
blindly or anything.
Well, no, I don't want to go into it with the mentality or the intent of demanding to know why they're not giving something back that they're not legally required. I would like as an information session.
As
by
John
all means.
LeBarra explained, because the money was put into their general fund and not given to them article by article, they were allowed to keep it.
Correct.
If it was given to them, like the other departments of the town, article by article, then they would have to use it for that. They couldn't go off and spend it elsewhere.
Right.
So when the people came to me, I explained that to them. I said, if you got a problem, go to school committee, but unless the town is going to start doing it article by article, like the other departments, then your only all course is go to the school committee.
Right.
And that's when John LeBarra says that we should probably have a meeting as soon as possible for FY21, so people can get on the same sheet of music, because you don't want to do this in March and April when the budgets are already being drawn up.
I agree 100% with that.
And that's why I'm just bringing it up now on what was said and what was done, and making a suggestion that we have a joint meeting with those two committees as soon as we can.
I am all for that.
I think the school committee understands and knows what they're doing.
And maybe they can explain it to us,
So,
Mm-hmm.
and we can explain it to the people that were complaining.
No, GCAM can do that.
Well, GCAM can do that, you're right.
but also remember, the school committee does not answer to us.
And we
We're
don't
elected
answer to
board.
them.
Right, we're both elected committee, elected board.
Just like the planning board doesn't answer to the select board and vice versa. Board of Assessors, the Board of Health,
Right.
any elected official doesn't answer to another elected official.
That's what I just said, yes.
Mhm.
But that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to, I have a lot of faith in the people that are elected to the school committee. I'm sure they're doing what they believe to be correct,
Mhm.
and they're looking out for the best interest of the schools, because that is their job as a school committee member, just as our responsibilities as a select board member to the town.
Mhm.
So again, if this board wishes to meet with them, I'm all in favor of that. But I don't know what the actual outcome of that would be.
I have no idea what the outcome is going to be. They could just tell us to go pound sand.
So,
I mean, they could, or they could come around and say, yeah, okay, we'll do it that way like everybody else. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not trying to speak for what other people would say. I'm just bringing it after discussion with Mr. LeBarra. He says that's what you need to do, and you need to do it as soon as possible for FY21. So that's why I'm bringing it to this board's attention based upon what he said. If you want to look at doing anything, you got to do it as soon as possible.
well, that would be to say that come town meeting, it had to be up article by article by article.
They could do it by that way, yes.
So, and again, I don't.
So in essence, you're changing it to a line item budget.
Be a
In
line-
essence, you're changing it to a line item
line-
budget.
like everybody else.
I think it's a much bigger budget compared to the fire department, police department, highway department to look at, so, I don't know. I think they did well. I think they've had a lot of turmoil, if you will, in the past several years. The school department, school committee, dealing with things. I think they've done a fine job. They brought Adam aboard. I think Adam's been doing a nice job as well. So
I agree.
And I'm glad to see that what has happened over the years. Who to say that this may not happen next year? We don't know that. This happened to be a good year. Things worked out well, and we don't know what next year holds for them. But again, if we wish to, I'm okay with meeting with them. I just don't know what what can be said. Like I said, and again, I'll just say it again, I know I said it a couple times already, but I'm sure the school committee is well aware of what their options are and responsibilities are as a school committee.
Well, that's the last thing on our list, I believe.
It is the last thing.
Except we're going to have to adjourn from our regular meeting in accordance with Massachusetts general law.
Excuse me.
He's going by
What
his
about
list.
under town administrator? What's under town administrator?
Dufresne rentals.
Oh, okay,
correspondence.
I didn't
That's okay,
see
you can
that.
blow me off if you want, that's fine, but
I didn't know that was an option.
I,
It's as much of an option of you not signing those, Glenn.
that's right. All right, I have a few Dufresne rentals here. First one is for a graduation party on June 30th, 2019, arriving 11 a.m., departing 6 p.m. Maximum number of people is 50, liquor authorized is no. On July 13th, we have a picnic, maximum number of people 49, arriving 9 a.m., departing 3 p.m., no liquor. On July 14th, we have a birthday party, maximum number of people 49, arriving at 12 p.m., departing at 3 p.m. Next one, we have a company picnic. Maximum number of people is 90. It's on July 20th, arriving at 8:30 a.m., departing at 5 p.m. Number of police to be assigned is left blank at this point in time. Liquor authorized, this is a liquor license that was supposed to be discussed tonight, but people did not show.
when are they going to have their outing?
July 20th.
And we have our
We
next
meet
meeting.
July 15th.
Justin, yeah.
Yep.
And if they don't show on the 15th, it's not going to happen.
Then we have a picnic on July 20th, 2019, arriving 9:30 a.m., departing 6 p.m. Number of people 45, no liquor. On July 21st, we have a kids' birthday party, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Maximum number of people is 200.
For a kid?
Popular kid.
I was going to say.
No liquor is authorized. On August 25th, we have a graduation party. Arriving at 12 p.m., departing at 7 p.m. No liquor, maximum number of people is 200. Yeah. No alcohol, yeah. We have a wedding reception on August 31st, arriving at 4 p.m., departing at 11 p.m. Liquor authorized, that we just actually authorized the license tonight. Police to be assigned, none. Maximum number of people is 100. We have a cross-country track meet using the pavilions and the bathrooms. Thursday, October 28th, arriving at 1 p.m., departing at 6 p.m. Maximum number of people is 300. Liquor, no police officers are required. Those are all the Dufresne rentals that I'll be signing off on. Next item is correspondence. Couple items that I think the board should be aware of. First one is the water softening system that we installed at the Granby Public Safety Complex. When we originally built the building, the treatment system was not authorized or permitted by the DEP. It did not work, so we went through the whole process of reinstalling a new ion exchange softener treatment system at the Public Safety Complex, filed the appropriate permits, and we have received conditional approval of that water softener. The other item of interest, another item of interest is the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources has given a permit to
Yeah, I read it.
an industrial hemp, they've issued an industrial hemp grower's license to a gentleman from Wilbraham, Mass., who has licensed property in Granby. We aren't given the address, we aren't given any of the information, but that the licensee is required to post signage around any fields where hemp is to be grown to identify it as such. So when the residents call and say there's another hemp farm and why wasn't I notified? Call the Commonwealth.
That's
We
right.
had nothing to do with it.
And we can't disclose any information.
But the issue is, they don't tell us when
Right.
someone's applying and when they're issuing. We just get a letter saying, oh, by the way, there's gonna be another hemp farm, or there's gonna be this, and there's gonna be that. So I just wanna let the board know that more and more is coming in town, because I know there was one that was issued already, and a lot of the local, the neighbors were upset that we didn't notify them because of the smell of hemp when it's growing,
Yep.
okay?
It's supposed to have a bad smell.
The other issue is I've been contacted by 3 different individuals who want to open one, a retail marijuana shop in Granby, and 2 who want to become growers of marijuana in Granby. The issue is we should start looking at a template for a host community agreement of what we will require from these people. I know there are some other ones out there from communities that already have them. We could look and develop one ourselves, but we really should start looking at it because we're now starting to be approached by more and more people.
Is that one thing we want to get maybe PVPC involved?
No.
Okay.
I know someone came to the planning board at our last meeting inquiring about it.
But see, the problem was with the growers, they can only grow it in industrial district.
Right.
But it's bylaws were the same thing with retail. It's the same thing. There's only certain areas
Yeah, they
Right.
can
within town
sell
that
it.
can be sold.
So the issue is when I point out the industrial, they sort of back off a little bit, or they want to try and get a variance. I don't know. I don't know how well
Yeah.
that'll go over.
The bylaws set the way the bylaws set.
That's the way the people voted them in, so.
But it is getting to be where we're getting contacted by more and more
Yeah,
people.
I think we
so.
should be prepared to have a host agreement, something that's
Yeah.
set in a template, as you said, so
Yeah.
people come about, and if it's something that is feasible and works out for the individual in the area that's allowed and they want to do it, then absolutely,
Okay.
we should be prepared.
The other thing I wanted to report is the bylaw review committee did meet. The chairman of the bylaw review did forward the proposed bylaws to the Attorney General's office and had received back some initial comments on some things that we can address. The big one is a resident had requested that we put a recall provision in the bylaws. The Attorney General's office came back and says, we don't have the authority to do that locally. It will require a special act of the legislature in order for us to be able to do so. So what we decided to do for the bylaw is just give it a place card holder, basically saying, yeah, we have it, but it's pending passage by the legislature. So we'll have to bring an article forward to town meeting with the proposed bylaw to be submitted to our legislature for inclusion for a home rule petition type of our legislation.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay.
It is what it is.
But I just want to let the board know that
That's the way it has to be done.
we haven't been sitting on our duffs. It's been waiting to get comments back. And the other issue is we don't want to include any new bylaws in this packet, like the snow removal one. We'd rather address that as a separate
Separate.
article we want to go forward with this document as it is now. Bring it forward to town meeting and let it go at that.
That makes
Okay,
sense.
and then if there's any new bylaws, submit them, and we'll address those separately outside of this master document that we've been trying to deal with.
Makes sense. It's
Okay.
monstrous.
So, if possible, we would like to look at a meeting, I believe we're looking late August, early September, for a meeting to address, A, the home rule petition article we brought forth to town meeting, and B, to run the revised bylaws in front of me.
I think if we look at maybe early September,
Now, I don't know if planning will be ready for anything at that point. I think it's a little early for planning to
Yeah.
try and deal with
Yeah.
stuff regarding
Yeah.
the solar, I believe it is.
yeah, then that one, we don't meet the deadlines. Right now.
Okay, but I'm just saying is, you know,
Yep.
it'd be nice to try and get them all together, but if we have to do separate
Yes, I can
ones.
tell you right now, just by the time frame and schedule that's set up, we still have to have public hearings and input. We wouldn't,
Okay.
there's no way we'd be ready. I mean, that's 2 months away.
I just wanted to make the offer though. That
No.
the-
Appreciate the offer, but
The other committee is looking, or
Respectfully
wanting to,
denied.
actually wanting to take this 3-year process and put it to bed.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe it's been 3 years that this committee's been looking at
think we-
these
yeah, I think-
bylaw changes. so.
And if we look at something like that for, to me, it's just maybe early September, stay away from the August because of people on vacation, stuff like that, going back to school. I think
Yeah.
after school's back in session, we look at early September and put it together.
Okay, but I just want to let the
Yeah,
board know.
no, I
so-
agree. I mean, we need to,
Okay.
you know,
And the other thing is do you want to go through the HIPAA stuff tonight, or do you want to?
I don't.
It's getting late, I'm just saying, I
HIPAA
agree,
can
it's
wait.
getting late. HIPAA can go, because I'm only going to be dealing with the May report. Hopefully, by July 15th, I would have the June report, which would be a more up-to-date
I mean,
request
it
for
doesn't take us
disposition.
long to go through the report, but I mean, it's 9:30. We've been here for 3 hours. I think. My thought is we can wait till our next meeting.
It's up to the board, because we did address a lot tonight. so.
Yeah. And there was one thing I forgot to bring up in my notes here. The solar bylaws.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned to you there was one that we were missing. We have an application in Boston now for a grant. Since the Energy Committee knows what the requirements are for Mass DOR, do you want us to draft up some solar bylaws, send them to the select board here to review, and then whatever's decided can be going on the planning board? Or do you want the planning board to be responsible? Because a new requirement just came out.
I think the planning board is looking for input from, I mean, Energy Committee be one area. We're also looking at what other towns and stuff are doing. We're going to be looking at the input from the public and public hearings. So, yeah.
No, we don't step on anybody's toes. Is it okay for the Energy Committee to draft up some solar bylaws so we can meet our green community requirements and whatever else is going on? Send them to the select board here, and then we can go over them and decide if we want to forward them to the planning board or not. Because-
Suggested bylaw changes.
That's all.
To be submitted.
Considered.
I think the Energy Committee knows that as far as what is going to play out in grants and stuff like that. I think that's important that you definitely have some input on it. Absolutely.
Because the newest requirement is, for any large-scale ground-mounted solar, you cannot have more than 20% shading. And that's something that we have to put into, and that just came out recently, within the last week or two. So I'm saying, we're watching the stuff, and then we have to do that other one that
Yeah.
we said about by right and
I mean,
all.
Lillian's on your committee. And
Yes.
So, I mean, and she's on the planning board.
That's right, so she can pass it on.
I'm sure that information will be coming from her as well, but definitely, I think,
Well, she doesn't want to get caught in the middle. That's why I told her, I says, I will ask the select board, since we work for the select board,
I don't think
if they have a
it's-
problem with it.
I don't think it's being caught in the middle. I think she has information and knowledge.
Yeah.
She's a planning board member. She's bringing
Yeah.
bringing that with her. But I don't have any concern with
You, Jen?
having something come from the Energy Committee
Yeah,
as far as.
we'll draft something up and get it over to you guys till we make sure we get the requirements covered.
Yeah. absolutely.
Because it really should be an entire town team effort, the way I look at it.
Absolutely, I agree 100%, Jay.
Okay,
And especially if it's put in writing exactly what you're looking to do.
right,
It is helpful versus someone,
Just
bringing it
speaking
back,
it.
you may not have everything correctly.
right. Just like telling you there's going to be 20% shading, we'll put it in writing how it should look at 20% shading, as well as the by right part. We'll put it in writing,
Yeah, I
and then
agree.
you can review it that way. And whatever else comes up, who knows? Everything changes every day. Right, Steve?
Absolutely.
Okay, so everybody's in agreement that we're going to adjourn tonight's meeting and leave out no executive session tonight?
100% agreement from me.
I'll make a motion this time we adjourn.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.